It's a new year, y'all. And for me, I've never been one to do resolutions. I do solutions. And for the past almost 2 years, I've been drinking AG1 every single day, thanks to my brother, Dr. Andrew Huberman, who turned me on to this incredible product. Every day, every morning, no exceptions. Just one scoop and a glass of water. They also make packs that you can travel with. That's been very, very helpful for me as a active touring person. Having these packets with me all around the world has been really, really helpful. So if you're a musician or somebody that is always on the go, the travel packs are incredible. AG1 delivers my daily dose of vitamins, minerals, and pre and probiotics. It's very powerful, it's very healthy, and it's really simple, man. Healthy aging shouldn't feel complicated. The thought of taking multiple supplements and all these types of vitamins and stuff and powders, it's truly exhausting for me. I've never been one to take a lot of multivitamins anyway throughout my whole life. I always prided myself in just eating vegetables and eating all the stuff I need naturally, not in a pill form. So this is incredible. It covers my nutrient gaps. It supports my mental and physical health. AG1 is hassle-free, 60 seconds every morning. It's the high-quality ingredients of pre and probiotics, adaptogens and antioxidants, and whole food sourced nutrients. I drink it every single day. Every batch of AG1s goes through rigorous testing processes, and their ingredients are sourced for absorption, potency, and nutrient density. If there's one product I can suggest to you guys, is the AG1s, man. This has been a life changer for me. So go to ag1.com/OLLC, and you can get a free 1-year supply of vitamin D3 and K2 and 5 free AG1 travel packs with your first purchase. With AG1, I know I'm getting essential brain, gut, and immune health support, vitamins, probiotics, and nutrients for the day, and it's helped my mental and physical. So if there's one thing I can recommend to you guys, it's AG1s. It's my nutritional insurance. I pride myself as almost being 54 years old, not going to the doctor all the time. Knock on wood. I've been healthy my whole life and try to strive to be a healthy person, stay young, stay full of energy, and still do the things I love that I did as a kid. That's why I still skateboard, play music, exercise. So start the year off right. AG1, ag1.com/OLLC. Yo, Liquid Death, thank you so much for hydrating all my guests, taking care of me and my family and my friends. Love your water, love your brand, love what you stand for, love what you give back to the community. If you want to learn more about Liquid Death and how it started, listen to episode 115 with the co-founder, owner, and creator of Liquid Death, Mike Cesario. Just a punk rock skateboarding kid from Delaware with a dream. It's an incredible story, incredible journey. So if you go liquiddeath.com/Toby, you get free shipping on any items you order from liquiddeath.com. If you want to just get Liquid Death water, go to amazon.com. But for the merchandise and other cool items, exclusive items, go to liquiddeath.com/Toby and get free shipping. Thank you so much, Liquid Death. Death to plastic, murder your thirst. Stay hydrated. You know H2O saves lives. Welcome to the One Life, One Chance podcast. I'm your host, Toby Morse. Today in my kitchen, man, we've been talking about doing this for a long time. I've known this guy for many, many years. He's a legend in rock and roll, punk rock, every freaking genre of music. Matt Pinfield.
Toby, it's so great to see you, man. We've been trying to do it for a while, but I'm so glad I'm over at your place.
I know. You don't even live that far from me. It's crazy, like probably a couple miles, but it takes a little bit longer to get here.
It's the Los Angeles traffic, right?
I know. You were just traveling too, like in Rome or something?
Yeah, I went there to DJ. This was cool.
DJing in Rome?
Yeah, I DJed in Rome, but I was hosting this event for a band called Kaleo, who are Icelandic.
Wow.
And it's the same people that did like Duran Duran on the roof of the Capitol Records building.
Yeah.
Vertigo Live, and they did Billy Idol and at the Hoover Dam. He did a concert at the Hoover Dam, and it's a thing where they do a concert for about 200 or 300 people.
Yeah.
And so Kaleo did it in front of the Coliseum in ancient Rome.
I saw that, man.
So it was great for me. I got to like introduce them and do the Q&A with JJ, their frontman and lead singer and guitarist. And then I DJ'd a set at this venue called Sanctuary, which is right over the Coliseum, which I spun nothing but 45s. I brought my own vinyl. I brought a box of 45 singles, and it was so awesome. And it was all from the 50s. Like, it was Little Richard and Bo Diddley to, like,
originals.
And then it was, like, a lot of 60s stuff and a lot of 60s soul and Motown and R&B. Like, like Otis Redding's original Hard to Handle. And, like, you know what I mean?
This is your personal collection, too?
Yeah, it's my personal 45 collection.
Do you have a big vinyl collection?
Yeah, I do. Most of my 45s are here. I have a lot of albums too, but a lot of them I downsized some of them.
Yeah.
And either gave them to friends or sold them so they wouldn't be sitting in a storage unit. I believe music is there to be shared, not to be like, I mean, you know what I'm
held
talking
away
about.
for later on.
Yeah,
Like,
I mean, because how long? My girlfriend always jokes to me. She's like, if you listen to every record that you have just in our place, in our apartment in L.A., and never stopped, you still probably wouldn't live long enough to hear every one of them.
you have a lot, huh?
Yeah, there's a lot. I have a huge 45 collection. I got really into it when I lived in San Francisco. I used to have 45s when I was a kid too.
You started young collecting them.
Yeah, well, buying them because I want to listen to them. The thing about me was, people ask me if I was a record collector. I'm like, well, I'm more of like, I consider myself just a music enthusiast, right?
Yeah.
So I would buy records to listen to them because when I was a kid, my dad was a school teacher. My mom worked at the college, but she was, eventually later, but she was a housewife at home. This is through the early 60s and 70s.
Yeah.
So I had to pay for every record that I got, except for when it was holidays. But I would mow lawns, deliver papers, feed people's animals, do whatever it took to buy records.
How old were you when you first bought your first record, you think?
I think I probably bought my first record like at around 6 years old, but then I really started like around 8, 9, and 10, when I was mowing lawns. But I have 45s that I started getting them, probably like around 1966. But my oldest brother, I had a brother who was 10 years older. He's a guy who hitchhiked to Altamont. You know what I mean? He was like at the Democratic National Convention riots. My brother was.
Did he get you into music or no?
Yeah. It was one of those things where I remember music in the house. We had a used 45 record player, one of those ones with a big spindle that dropped the song on. That was like a lot different than how it is now streaming, of course.
Yes.
The records would it was a secondhand one they bought from the neighbors. My parents didn't have a lot of money. So when I was a little kid, the first thing I remember is hearing Elvis, Motown, and Beatles and Stones in my house.
Yeah.
When I was like 3 or 4. So you're talking about like 64, 65, 66. So Beatles had already been over, but I really didn't comprehend all of that. But the first stuff I remember is about 1966 because I just turned 5. But I mean, I remember even younger.
It's crazy.
The records.
Yeah.
And it's crazy. My memory that I have, Toby, my mother told me that they would give me like those, Disneyland kitty records and like the Mother Goose, and I would throw them under the refrigerator because all I wanted was like rock and soul music.
It wasn't for you. Yeah.
Yeah, it was like not into kitty records. So
wow.
When they moved the first time from Dunellen, New Jersey, because I was born in Athens, Georgia, the town RE and B-52s are from.
Yeah.
My dad had just gotten out of the military. He was from Plainfield, New Jersey, and he had fought in the Korean War, came back. He was on a GI Bill, went to college at UGA. That was the thing that, my earliest memories are really in New Jersey where I grew up.
Yeah.
So music was always around me, man. And
how'd you end up in Jersey from there?
Well, my parents moved back to where they were from.
Okay, gotcha.
My dad knew my mom when they were like 13 or 14. He got engaged to someone else. He moved to California with his family, and then he went into the military, and then eventually he moved back. They started writing to each other.
Wow.
Right after the war, and she had gone through a divorce.
Gotcha.
But I have an older brother who was from her first marriage, but I consider him to be my brother. There's no other brother.
Yeah.
I love him. My brother Glenn. He was cool, and he was really good at having great records around the house when I was a kid. So in '66, my earliest memories of New York radio was that summer driving with my father, in an old Chevy Nova, no air conditioning, no seatbelts, of course, the way it's supposed to be. At that period of time, there was like nobody even thought about those things.
It's true.
Listening to like radio, like WABC in New York, and hearing that summer, it was like all songs about summer, like Summer in the City by the Love and Spoonful, Sunny by Bobby Hebb, Sunshine Superman by Donovan, A Sunny Afternoon by the Kinks, Painted Black by the Stones. It was all this killer stuff that was, the charts were like amazing. The soul records and, the rock records. So, that was I loved music from a very early age, and all I wanted to do was listen to music. Like that's all I was obsessed. In school all day, I was
going to ask you, how were you in school?
You know what it was? If you look at my first grade or second grade report card, it says, Matt is a good student, but he gets bored very easily. We have to keep him on, and so they wanted to put me on like a Ritalin or something when I was a kid. My parents refused.
My parents refused too.
So I never did. I never got on anything. Yeah. I mean, I got into drugs when I got older, of course, and booze. And now I'm completely sober, going on 4 years.
Yeah, congrats. It's amazing,
which
man.
It's so great. And I'm glad you never have, Toby, because you saved yourself a lot of agony.
Yeah. I'm scared to think of myself if I tried anything. I'm already hyper anyway, so yeah.
Yeah, I mean, like, that's what people say to me when they found out that I used to drink and do drugs. They're like, dude, I can't imagine you on drugs. You already have enough energy.
So much. You've always been like that.
Yeah, so.
Just high on life, but yeah.
Yeah, so I'm grateful, And so, when I think about the music thing when I was a kid, I was just obsessed with radio.
Did you want to play music or sing or play an instrument?
Yeah, so I would sing, but the thing was, because of the dimensions of our house, I couldn't find we couldn't find anybody to give me guitar lessons, right? So we went to one guitar lesson in this town, in this North Brunswick Music School in Jersey, and then the guy quit, and I'm like, well, I guess I can't. And then we had a piano in the house, so I took piano lessons.
Nice.
So I could play a little piano. Now I play. Really more, not really I just play by sound or memory, but I was really into guitars and really into vocals. So my first band I was in at 13, and I sang lead. So I was the lead singer.
Wow. What year was that? What year would that be?
So
and
like
what were
13,
the guys called?
14. The band was called Thunderhead. So I'll tell you the
Sick.
story. So, we go, you move a little bit past, and this is like when we talk about the history of punk rock. I had an older brother, and on the radio in 66, 67, there was a lot of garage rock.
Yeah.
It was like the roots of punk with Blues Magoos and Syndicate of Sound and the Count 5 and the Music Machine and the Seeds and all these bands.
Crazy.
And it was so cool. And to me, that was just rock and roll. I loved it.
Yeah.
And pop music, which is what it was, right?
Yeah.
Because it was on popular radio. But, about that time that I was 7th grade going into 8th grade and 9th, I had friends in my town of East Brunswick, New Jersey, and they were starting a band.
Okay.
So I went.
That's my son, Max. This is Matt.
Max, what's going on, man? Great to meet you. Nice to meet you. How you doing? I know your dad a long time. Your dad's great.
Get out here, Max.
Yeah. It's good to meet you, man. So I was like, I always wanted to, sing. I mean, that was the thing. The things I was in love with as a kid were certainly radio. But, I mean, I lived in Jersey where we could go out and hang out with our friends and run through the woods and ride bicycles.
Run through the woods, yeah.
Yeah, do all the things that you do.
How far from the city were you?
We were 35 to 40 minutes.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? When there's no
that seems so far away when you're young, though, too.
Oh, it does. It was like New York City was another world. But it was became a city that I fell in love with and a big part of my musical upbringing. And, so it was one of those things where I showed up for this. These guys were having a band practice, and I was just invited over. Yeah. And I discovered David Bowie around 74 with Diamond Dogs. I heard Rebel Rebel, and I fell in love with that. And they were playing that song. So another guy singing, and then I said, I could sing that song. And I got up and sang it, and they looked at me and went, "You're our singer now. He can be our manager." So I ended up being the singer in this band, and we played like all the junior high dances. We played the teen center, and we would do like Bowie.
Is there footage of this stuff anywhere?
BTO. No, I mean, it was 1976,
I know, that's true, yeah.
So
that'd be so cool.
But there's photos, which I can show you. They're unbelievable. But to see that stuff with me with hair, number one. And but we would do all these covers of like, Bowie and BTO and Bad Company and Kiss, things that everybody could play. Yeah. It was pre-punk, right? So this is, 75 into 76.
Had you been to any concerts yet or any shows at that point?
Yeah. So the thing that was wild was, the first concerts that I got to go to in a quick session, thanks to my brother. Well, my parents took me to see Don McLean, American Pie at Princeton University Gym, but he wasn't good. Like, I mean, the song is great, but it was really boring, and I wanted something with some edge. Yeah. So, plus you're with your parents, you feel uncomfortable. I felt a little out of place. Yeah. And I was very young. And then my brother took me to see, in a matter of a short period of time, I saw Jethro Tull at Madison Square Garden, the War Child tour, which was great. And then I saw Queen, A Night at the Opera at the Beacon Theater.
Jesus.
Because, I'm jumping ahead a little bit,
okay.
but like after, I became hugely into Bowie, and I loved 70s glam. I really loved all that stuff. I was
Did you dress like that too?
No, I did not. We could hardly afford clothes, so we didn't buy like the PX things from my father's connection to the military. So we, but I will say this, what's great about my dad is he did everything he could with the knowledge and the talent that he had. I mean, he built my first stereo by hand.
Oh,
like he literally cut the wood for this turntable, put all the pieces in, 2 separate mini amps.
That's
incredible. And it was cut wood, and he shellacked it himself, built the square speakers himself. He put the whole thing together. He was like one of these guys that was unbelievably smart. And so he also, around right before this time, you'll appreciate this, is I was like in love with music and radio. So, and there were only like, a couple of New York stations, New York radio there was, and there was no cell phones. There was no answering machines. There was like, there were 7 TV channels, right? Like in New York and so he helped me build. He had the thing. He worked as a physics teacher because he was super bright. Okay. But he also ran the audiovisual department at the high school. So he had a catalog that basically said you can order an AM transmitter kit to build your own radio station. And for $35. Wow. So he bought an AM transmitter that he put together in the basement for me, and we got some beat up turntables and a Radio Shack mixer and beat up mics, and we built a little radio station in my basement in East Brunswick, New Jersey, and then he ran a wire up the antenna, and you could get it for $1. You had to like literally. I go to my friends, hey, I'm on the radio. Go listen to me at the corner, and literally take the transistor radio, and then we DJ for each other, me and the neighborhood kids.
Super DIY.
Yeah, it was so DIY.
Oh my! So it's like you're on your block. You're the DJ.
Yeah, we're on a block. You know what I mean? Like it was like because it was a dream to do that.
Insane.
And now that I've been doing it for 40 years plus college years, dude. It's like crazy. But
were you DJing first? Like, were you DJing the Melody Bar first before you were on the radio station, like Rutgers and all that stuff?
No. So that came from
84. Damn.
Yeah. So like 84 is when I started doing professional radio, but in 80 is when the college radio thing started for me.
Yeah.
So I went through high school.
How'd you do in high school? How were you as a kid? You like
the really wild thing about being 15 and going from junior high singing in a band to all of a sudden finding out there's something wrong with my head. There's somebody in my homeroom looked and said, what is that pulsating? What is that thing on the side of your head? So I go and I reach over to the left side of my head, and there's a bubble there that's pulsating like an artery. And it was an aneurysm. And I had to go in the hospital in that crucial summer between junior high and high school, where you could like, all of a sudden, you're like the singer in the band, and you guys are ninth grade, but high school was in 10th.
Yeah.
So I had to get an operation, spend part of that summer in the hospital.
That's scary. Wow.
And never knowing that my parents never told me that the first 2 neurosurgeons told them that I wasn't going to live. The third said I had a 20% chance of living. My mother said, well, I think that's better odds. She told the other ones, hey, I think we'll look for a second opinion. I never knew this. So I went into the hospital. I had an operation. I came out, I was a very big, I loved rock and roll, all kinds of rock and roll, but I was a big Bowie fan. It was almost ironic that he came out with The Man Who Fell to Earth, the movie, like about feeling like an alien and being one, Nicholas Roeg film. And we went to see that after I got out of the hospital with a bunch of friends. But I had stitches that looked like, like a train track all the way up and down the left side of my head.
Type shit. Yeah.
Frankenstein, man. And I felt so.
Was that scary time? Was that a scary moment?
It was just. I was angry. I was less scared and more pissed off. Like as a teenager,
it's cutting into your life. Yeah,
it's cutting into my you want to hang out with and meet girls and you want to listen to rock and roll, and I was just and play rock and roll.
Yeah.
And it was a weird time to say the least. Because it was the mid-'70s, so I never knew it. You didn't know anybody who ever went through anything like that.
No,
like a teenage aneurysm.
No,
so
it's really not even common now if you think about it.
No, because most people when you get an aneurysm, you usually find out after it bursts and you're dead.
Exactly,
it's very sad. A lot of people have died.
And what causes that?
Well, they don't know if it was a blow to my head at some point or. Who knows? Falling off a bike. I mean, it could have been anything.
Yeah.
They never really were able to there was no explanation.
So that put you out for a minute. Yeah.
It did, and so it was in that summer between junior high and high school. And which brings me to the whole punk rock thing because, what really ended up happening for me was, I was really angry and resentful. I was nice to everybody, but I was just mad at the world because I was
that
like,
happened to you.
Yeah, I was like, what did I do at 15 years old to deserve to go to like get an aneurysm and like just be out of pocket and then come back and deal with some other, just other weird stuff. Like, it was very hard to go into high school with that big like train track across your head, those the Frankenstein look. First of all, there were no baseball caps. There were no no merch. There was nothing you could buy. You could not buy team baseball
beanies,
hats, or any of that stuff in the store.
That's so crazy.
There was none of that available. So my parents bought me a cowboy hat, and I wouldn't wear it. And that's nothing against cowboy hats. You can look good in them, but it was like
that's all they had was a cowboy. Or like a visor for tennis or some shit.
No, none of that stuff.
Damn.
There was nothing that we could find.
Here's a cowboy hat, son.
It was, they were just trying to help, but I was really.
That make it more obvious.
Yeah, and what's really interesting was, in that summer, this is 76, really, 76 going into 77. 77 is the next year. So, if you back up to my birthday, which is May 28th, 1976.
That's the day I got married.
May 28th?
That's my anniversary, 27 years this year.
Oh, congratulations to you and Moon. That's amazing. Yeah. It's a great day.
Wow. I have it tattooed on me.
That's amazing.
Yeah. Happy birthday on me. Okay.
Yeah, celebrate your birthday, and your anniversary. And
that's your birthday.
Speaking of birthdays, so like I'm Irish, English, because my last name is Pinfield. It's an English name.
Yeah.
And I found out from Ancestry.com I'm also part Italian. So I'm all those things that you would expect for somebody whose family grew up in Jersey, over Ellis Island or whatever.
Ellis Island.
Yeah. And so the thing is, because my great grandparents were right off the boat there. And so
you're back at school.
I'm back,
So is it back senior year or like 11th grade?
So I'm going back to 9th grade. Before the aneurysm to tell you how I discovered the Ramones. Because it was a very, very interesting moment in my life because here's my birthday. And I had this friend, Rich, whose dad was a major mobster. I didn't know that at the time. I would go over his house and I'd see pictures. Yeah, we'd see a picture of his dad with like Frank Sinatra, his dad with Sam Giancana or a Columbo. And I was like, hey, that's cool. Your dad knows Frank Sinatra. Like, I was a 14, 50-year-old kid.
You don't think about that.
I just didn't think about it. But I liked him. But we fought over the same girl. We had the same birthday. We're both around the same height, except he's ginger. He's got red hair. And we're still friends to this day.
That's cool.
Which is amazing. But we beat each other up that day. I mean, so we were swinging at each other in the boys' room of this junior high school, Churchill Junior High in East Brunswick, New Jersey.
Wow.
And we both get suspended. So his dad comes and gets him and doesn't really care. My dad, on the other hand, is embarrassed to pick me up because he's in the school system as a teacher, the same school system.
Oh, dude.
As physics teacher and the audiovisual guy, and he was like also coached football offensive line. He did a lot of different things. But he was like, he wasn't super mean, but he just said, I can't believe I have to come pick you up here on your birthday, and he drops me off at home and goes, mow the lawn. So I go, as soon as the car takes off, I drop the lawnmower and I hitchhike up to an apartment store that has a record department.
Okay.
It was called Corvettes, and it was all over the East Coast, and my sister-in-law, my brother's first wife, who gave me her old singles collection from the British Invasion era to like 67, 68, when she just started getting albums when she was a teen. So they got married very young. She was working as the manager of the record department there. Gotcha. But it's very different than years later where I had friends who could slip me records or get me promos and, that kind of thing, even in like my college years.
Yeah.
She you couldn't even borrow a pack of gum from that place or you get arrested, right?
Yeah.
So I never got free records from her, but I would go up there and go. So I hitchhike up and I walk into the department store. I say hi to her and I go, hey, I got some money for my birthday. Is there any new records or new bands or anything that looks interesting? And she literally reaches under the counter and pulls up the first Ramones album and goes, I hear this is good. And I look, it had been out for 2 weeks.
Wow, man.
I look at that picture of Tommy, Joey,
With the Ramones in
TD, and
pink,
Johnny.
black and white picture.
You had a black and white
Yeah.
picture, and it's just black and white Ramones, the whole
That's
cover.
right, black and white. That's right. That's
And
right.
so I'm looking at that, and I'm like, holy shit, these guys look wild. What is this? And then I turn the record over, and I go, 14 songs. I go, that's awesome, because, every record had like 8 at that period of time in the 70s. So I bought the record, and I took it home, and it started a journey into punk rock that nobody even called it punk rock at that point. It was just like something new.
Something new.
And I fell in love with that, and also realized how polarizing and divisive the early years of punk and new wave were, because you had to find your gang.
Yeah,
you had to find your
tribe.
tribe. I mean, it was like, so it was very interesting to be a kid in school who at this point was also just went through an aneurysm, but be into punk rock. And I still loved, like all rock, and I still listened to pop music too, whatever was on. But I was really a huge rock fan, and I gravitated towards the punk. But
did you change your look and stuff too? You got inspired to change your look?
No, because it was, the thing was, it was really interesting for me. Like I said, I saw those shows. I saw Queen at the Beacon Theater. Night at the Opera is unbelievable, because I heard Sheer Heart Attack, that third album. I heard Killer Queen on the radio, and I went, holy shit, who is this? This is amazing. Bought Sheer Heart Attack. Night at the Opera came out, and I went to see him, like, right after the album came out in New York, in a theater,
It's crazy.
When Freddie Mercury was still long hair. I mean, it was like really cool. I mean, and they were phenomenal. Then I saw Aerosmith, and I saw Bowie in '76 at the Nassau Coliseum.
Wow.
So I saw the Station to Station tour, because my girlfriend at 15 years old, her older sister, used to like hang out with Johnny Thunders, hang out, you know what I mean? She was like banging Johnny Thunders, which is like, it was like, she was like, and so
holy shit,
we got tickets to see Bowie at the Nassau Coliseum in '76, and that was unbelievable, that show. And it's out there now as a double live album. Like, it came out years later. It was a bootleg for years. So I saw these great shows, and, we had the band going on, and we moved forward. And the whole journey into punk rock and going through all that, I mean, I just, going through that period of time as a teenager, I know, how teenagers, and I feel for them, how they can sometimes feel like there's no future, or there's, you can feel like because
or alone, or like they don't exist, or being a black sheep, or just being different. Right?
Yeah, and I know that, and having that aneurysm and going through that really weird period, and getting bullied at times, and just other crap.
That's
from
cool.
that. Mostly I had cool friends, but once in a while there'd be some guy who would want to take a swing at me just because of that. You know what I mean? Which is pretty wild. I had a lot of good friends, and of course, the ones that did that ended up eventually getting their dues by my Jersey brothers there. Let me tell you, it all came back around for them.
Yeah.
Because, but I'm just saying, there were a couple people that weren't very nice about it. But
the whole time you're in school, is your vision just to do something in music?
All I wanted to do was be in music. I loved music so much, and I wanted, I dreamed of being on, the radio, or being in a band. And then, of course, years later, I realized, as I started going bald very young, you know what I mean? And
how old?
I'd say I started going bald at like 19, 20, 21. What? Like, it started going back. It was really weird. I started losing my hair very young. I had a very high forehead.
Does that go with, is it your grandparents' house? How they say that?
I'm not really sure. My dad is bald, right? So, but I say it's on your mother's side, I think, and my brother's bald now. But
Was that a whole mental thing for you too back
then?
No,
I want to tell you what's wild. I didn't care. Once I went through that whole thing with the aneurysm at 15, I was like, I don't give it, because what was happening is I was already into like punk and new wave and all the new music that was happening, and everybody was like DIY, and everybody accepted. And I busted out of high school ready to do radio, go to shows. It was the most important thing to me. So so that so I went through that period, but I got to tell you, when I really discovered the phrase punk rock, and you'll appreciate this, was in 1977, late 76. My mother, and I've told Steve Jones this, I've told Johnny Rotten this, I've told Cookie this, and Glenn Matlock, the original Pistols.
Joe.
My mom goes to me, I heard about this band spitting on reporters, and I went, I got to find that band. Or, like I was ready for anything subversive.
Yeah.
And so I was working an under-the-table job, cleaning like chairs and delivering, being the kid in the back of the truck where they lock you in because of college kids. I was working under the table,
Wow.
like delivering like, equipment and stuff for this, working underage in Jersey. But I was close to a record store that I could walk to when I was at work. And this record store on Route 18 in East Brunswick had the Sex Pistols singles and like early punk rock. So I literally went in there and I went, "You got any Sex Pistols records?" They said, "Sure." And they had Pretty Vacant, which was, and God Save the Queen and Anarchy in the UK all on singles.
Crazy.
And so I bought them all.
Do you still have them?
I do have them. Yeah, I have. They're somewhere, but I have them, and but
bought them all.
And then I brought them home, and man, the first moment when I put on God Save the Queen and I heard that guitar, blasting out of my speakers, I was immediately in love with it. It was so confrontational. Oh, yeah. It was the best thing, and I loved that. I mean, it was so important to me at that time. And then
a game changer. Never mind the Bullocks.
It was.
I had the 8-track. They have 8-tracks back then.
Yes.
My brother had that.
Yeah, the 8-tracks, man.
Dude.
And so I don't know, Toby. I'm sorry. I should let you get a word in. I'm going to keep on going.
No.
But I wanted to say.
And that was a whole game changer for you.
Yeah, the Sex Pistols was a big thing because what I realized at that period of time, because I was listening to AC/DC with Bon Scott and Thin Lizzy,
which is great.
Which I love those. Yeah, but I was ready for something like that. That was exciting for young people that were, that had some pent up energy and some anger, but also had a sense of humor.
Too.
Very rebellious.
Sense of humor too.
Sense of humor is a real part of punk rock that a lot of
Sex
people
Pistols had that.
They did. There were
Ramones were maybe more serious, kind of.
Yeah, yes and no, right? Like because some of the beat on the brow, they were having fun with it, but I know what you're talking about. It was, but having that. Getting that record opened a door, and all of a sudden I wanted to find more new music that was in the punk arena. So one day I'm walking back. I bought another record at that record store, and I'm walking down the highway, and somebody, they either see me holding a Pistols record or some other punk record. And the station wagon turns around on the highway, comes back, and these guys get out, and I think they're going to beat me up. And the guy, or try, and the guy goes, "Hey, man, you love punk rock?" And I go, "Yeah, man, why?" And he goes, "Did you ever hear the Dead Boys?" I'm like, "No." He goes, "You got to listen to this." And he brings one of those front-loading, one-speaker tape recorder Panasonics, presses play and plays me Sonic Reducer. And I was like...
On the side of that freaking highway?
On the side of the highway. And I went back to the record center and bought the album, Young, Loud, and Snotty, which was another game-changing album for me, which I absolutely loved.
Wow.
Played it for my older brother. And he loved it, too. They did a cover of Syndicate of Sound's Little Girl on there, recorded live at CB's, but there was just so many great things. I just embraced that.
What were your parents thinking about the music?
They didn't understand it.
Your mom told you about, like, spitting on reporters, and when she heard it.
You know what? My parents kind of always knew, like, that I was different.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was a little obsessed with music, and so I think they were like, I don't think they really questioned it. All they could hear was some of the bass and the guitars. I don't think they really heard the words.
Yeah.
Luckily.
Yeah.
But I don't, I think they were at that point, they were kind of like, my older brother and older sister had already worn them down a bit. So by the time it got to me, they were just like, "Yeah, Matt, just turn it down." It was a little too loud.
And then what was your first punk show after, like, discovering punk?
Well, it was amazing that the bands that I used to go see. Well, I'd see some of the Dead Boys at Zaffy's, but we used to go see everything. At this point in time, I'd gone through, seeing a bunch of bands over the years, like people like, I saw like Judas Priest, like when they were
big bands.
But at the New York Palladium, so they were like an opening act.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. And so I'd see like a triple bill with Cheap Trick, UFO, and Rush all at the New York Palladium, or Judas Priest and the Gods and Angels, or somebody like that. And I would literally, but then I started being able to go to shows myself. So all I would do, I made friends that also found people that liked punk rock and new music.
Yeah,
and I would literally go to shows. I would see David Johansen all the time, solo from New York Dolls. He was always playing at clubs, and I would see the Dead Boys. I saw them at, at Zaffies, and I would go to CB's all the time.
I was going to ask you first time going to CB's, yeah.
Yeah, first time I went to CB's was 1979. So, like, the main period, I'd gotten all those records, like Richard Hell's Blank Generation and Talking Head 77.
Yeah.
And the Saints, I'm Stranded, and all that stuff that came out at that period of time. Television's debut album.
Television.
But I was, and Heartbreakers I got to see, which was cool.
Wow.
So I got to see the Heartbreakers, with Johnny Thunders. And, but I was, I was going to shows all the time. I loved going to shows.
Yeah.
And then eventually got into college radio. Like my whole thing was.
Did you go to college?
Yes, just enough to go to be on the radio station.
Okay, perfect.
And you want to hear the beautiful thing is they just gave me an award from Rutgers University this past year, the WRSU Hall of Fame Award.
Oh yeah.
For and the joke was like even when they gave me the award, they're like, we're not sure how many classes Matt attended, but I literally did not graduate school. I just went to enough classes. And I helped kind of nurture this New Brunswick, New Jersey scene by playing local bands on the radio.
Yeah.
Anybody who had like a demo, and I started doing this local music show there, plus playing punk rock and new wave.
How old are you then?
Probably 18, 19, you know what I mean? So
the drink musical director there too, right?
Yeah, eventually was. Yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
And it was so awesome because I was also doing all the stuff. So this was the great thing about this was I realized that I could get into shows that I was buying for by giving away tickets on the air and doing promotions with the Fastlane in Asbury Park or City Gardens. Those were the
legendary
stations.
City Gardens. There's a book out for the listeners. I went to many, many shows there. Wow, dude.
And so I was always at these shows at City. I would go to see every punk thing and then invite all the bands to come and do the radio show. So
that's cool.
In 82, Black Flag came, and it was like Dez and Henry and Greg. I think I got to listen, but
they played City Gardens then, though.
They played City Gardens then, yeah. Circle Jerks played it back then. There were so many great punk shows, and then all the great shows like I saw in that club, Killing Joke and the Gang of Four and Bauhaus and Nick Cave with the birthday party in the back room. Like I saw so many cool shows at City Gardens. I saw bands that were in the Ministry when they were starting out, and Thompson Twins when they were like a new band, and Pete Shelley.
If you look at those old calendars, like all the shows are so diverse too.
It was diverse all the time. City Gardens was this great old warehouse. And
was it sketchy neighborhood back then?
Oh, it was so sketchy. It was the most sketchy. It was North Calhoun Street in Trenton, New Jersey.
That's right.
And we would drive. You played there, I'm sure.
Oh,
many times. I remember.
On Rancid is a bunch of bands. Yeah.
Yeah, I remember. And it was
Crazy Skinheads would go to that stuff.
Yeah,
it was kind of gnarly.
It was nutty place, and Social Distortion, of course. Early shows too there too. I talked to Mike Ness about it, and like I would go see everything because I loved punk rock, and I was like really when hardcore happened, I was playing a lot of it. It was really interesting. I was coexisting on my radio show with like new like British synth pop with hardcore. Like I was playing everything and 70s glam. Like and like so I play like Black Flag, Circle Jerks, and Husker Du. Like Minutemen, like I played everything. You know what I mean? I'm just using that as an example.
No, it's great.
And I found all these shows recently. We found in a storage unit, like I have all these radio shows from the 80s. And then when I started at HTG, one of the first 13 commercial alternative stations in 84, and I was there till 94, of course, and that's like when MTV I went to, but like full time. But it's wild because
would you release that audio someday and stuff?
Yeah, we're gonna archive it. It's unbelievable to hear it. And just some of the punk rock sets that I would play, you could never get away with playing that on the radio now.
Oh, now you can, yeah.
Because just some of the stuff, the lyrics were like really like, they were really out, confrontational.
Really, yeah, they were, man.
And for I loved it. I loved anything that would kind of question authority and anything that was like would make people think, critical thinking, but also, had a sense of humor to it, which is why I love the Descendants and bands like that. I'm just using it as
but
an
Dead
example.
Kennedys, too, they were ahead of their time.
They were so,
What they sang about still happens now. It's crazy. I know.
Isn't it crazy? It's wild. I remember the day I bought the first Dead Kennedy single, California Umbrellas, at Bleecker Bob's in New York City.
Shout out to Bleecker Bob's.
Yeah, and I went there and I looked up and I saw the name of the band. I went, Dead Kennedys. I got to buy that. And it was on, Alternative Tentacles, and it was like in a plastic bag that they'd folded over the light cardboard picture sleeve. So it was like, their the band had probably done it. You know,
It's
like
that
themselves.
California Umbrella. That you
Yeah,
said,
yeah, Man with the Dogs.
But all the Frankenchrist, Police Truck, all those songs.
Yeah.
They sang about. Like,
I loved all that stuff, Nazi punks and all those.
that's
great
what
songs.
kind of I
Too Drunk
learned
to-
about politics and stuff was through maybe Dead Kennedys, the things he was singing about, you know?
Yeah, absolutely.
Bad Religion, all those bands when they came out.
Oh, they're so
It
great.
taught me so much as a kid.
Yeah, and then, so that's the thing I want to talk about too, Toby. Is like, you know, I loved when we met because you loved so much cool punk rock and every era. See, I love so much different music, as you know,
Of course, yeah.
But because
diverse palette of music you have. Yeah,
which is so important, you know. But I think that what was so great is there was always something really interesting going on in that punk rock world, and
especially in New York and the East Coast, man.
man, I would love like the era of like the Cro-Mag, Sick of It All, which I love on your NYC EP, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
and I love
man.
the one you did the one for California where you did
the 7-inches,
the
yeah,
end of the
covers.
East Bay, and you also did you
Journey
did
to
Sick
the End.
Boys, Journey to the End of the
Yes.
East Bay, Sick Boys, and what was the other one that you did?
Suicidal.
Suicidal. Yeah, you so
Or
good.
Descendants too,
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, I love Cali growing up too, but living on the East Coast, that was like the mecca for hip hop, punk rock, everything, man.
It was amazing. I mean, that's why, you know, I think you and I we talk about how fortunate we were to be close to a city like New York or be in it.
Dude.
Like for me, that was being able to go to shows in New York from the time I was a kid, and then continuing to go. I mean, it was even fun to go. Like, remember Rory and running like the hardcore matinees? You were
Amnesty
part of all
International.
that.
Amnesty
Yeah.
International. Roy Krevlon.
Yeah,
Shows at NYU, shows at everywhere. The Marquee,
yeah.
KRS-One, Sick of It All, these crazy freaking combinations.
All
man.
these cool people.
The
I mean,
Ritz.
there was so much good stuff happening. I love that about New York. And you know, it's really wild. I think even with hip hop,
Yeah.
do you know, turned me on to The Message by Grandmaster Flash, Killing Joke.
Wow.
I was there to see him at City Gardens.
Wow.
They were touring for their second album, What's This For? The one with Follow the Leaders. Basically a tour for the first two.
Yeah.
And I go backstage because I always had the balls to do that. You know, I was always walking backstage, you know, trying to get interviews with people for a college radio show.
I love that, dude.
You know, and they're like, dude, have you heard this new Grandmaster Flash song? I'm like, no, what is it? And they had a boombox and he played me The Message, and I'm like, holy shit. And then I fell in love with that.
Wow.
And you know, there's certain moments in your life where you hear a song and it's you
Yeah.
know it's something that's really
I think the
important.
Clash also kind of turned me on to hip hop because the Clash was kind of getting into that vibe too.
Yeah, the Clash were such an unbelievable band, protagonists, but also there were they're one of the most important bands in my lifetime. You know, and
One of the greatest, man.
They're one of the greatest bands of all time. And the beauty is, the first thing I got was the import of the first record, you know, which had Cheat and Protex Blue and some of the songs that weren't on the American version. And I found these couple of friends in high school who also loved the Clash.
Yeah.
And they hadn't toured yet, right? And then they recorded Give 'Em Enough Rope, which was the first album released in America.
Yep.
But I loved that stuff. And then all of a sudden I had the opportunity to go see them live in a very short period of time. So I went to see them in the fall of 79, one of two nights at the New York Palladium, and just happened to be in the audience tonight that Paul Simon smashed his bass on the cover of London Calling.
Oh my God.
So, because he was he was pissed at the audience. And I think, and like security guys in it, because he made everybody sit down. And he smashed that bass. And he was mad because it was a bass that he actually cared about, where usually CBS Records would get them, like cheap basses, kind of like the old Who thing. And when I first saw him do it, I thought, is he doing it Pete Townsend or is he really pissed off? Like I was asking myself that.
Yeah.
Because I was in like the 30th row on Mick Jones' side of the stage.
Okay.
So I look over and I see him smash the bass and I go, so that was the thing. But the show was incredible.
Wow. How big was the New York Palladium?
New York Palladium, I'm not sure how many. It's a few thousand, and I saw so many great shows there back in the day.
Was that the one on 14th Street?
Yes.
Okay, that's
It's
one.
now-
My wife worked there too later on in life. Yeah.
Oh, it's amazing, which was a club later.
Yeah.
And now it's
Hip-hop club.
NYU dorms. But it
man.
was, I saw the Clash there. I saw the Police there, Boomtown Rats, Thin Lizzy with Graham Parker opening up. I saw.
Do you see? I go to Max, Kansas, whatever.
You know what? I missed the Max's days.
Yeah.
I was.
Sex Pistols played there, I think.
Yeah. Well, Sid Vicious did, right?
That's right,
So
yeah.
but
Wow.
but it was interesting because I was like, CBGB's is what I knew, so I would go to CB's, and it was funny because I was so young that I didn't even venture
Was that
over
scary
to
for you
Max's.
going there? CB's in the Bowery back then?
Yeah, it was. It was
Intimidating.
yeah, it was a little intimidating for a young guy like me at that period of time who grew up in the suburbs. But I had to go where the music was, and that was the thing. I didn't care.
I love that you did that though. You loved it.
Yeah, I had to go there and see bands, and so I started going there in '79, and so after seeing the Clash at the Palladium, then 3 months later, London Calling was out, and they played at the Capitol Theater in Passaic, New Jersey, and that show was phenomenal. And then a little over a year later, we bought tickets for my birthday for the Clash on Broadway at Bonds.
Yeah.
My girlfriend and I were going to go with my friends that loved the Clash because it was a small group of us. Yeah. And I remember that because the fire department the New York Fire Department and police, it was oversold. The old Bonds was an apartment store. They closed it down, and the Clash agreed to make good on every single show. So they had to change people's ticket dates to when they were accepted, and they just extended it to 17 shows. So it was like
shows there?
Yeah, something like 17.
What was capacity there? You know.
I don't remember, but I do remember this.
Probably not that big back then.
But I'll tell you what I do remember about the night at the Clash for Sandinistas and for Clash on Broadway. It was wild because there was a Sandinistan soldier on the stage, and he was speaking in Spanish. We're like, I didn't understand a word of it. He's going, and all of a sudden they start dropping flyers from the air vents in this old department store, and the Clash were amazing. But I'm like, what the fuck is that?
That's crazy.
I had no idea what was going on.
Wow.
But those were the 3 times that I saw the Clash. I was in love with the Clash. I was in love with the Jam. Those guys were also incredible live.
How about the Buzzcocks?
Buzzcocks were one of my favorite bands. Buzzcocks were one of my favorite bands, and I was obsessed with the Buzzcocks. And I'm going to go see them in about a week. Wednesday it was just Steve Diggle because Pete died. Pete died when I was in the hospital after getting hit by the car.
That was sad, man.
And because I became good friends with them. And I don't know if I've ever told you this, but I used to write letters to the U.S. government for them. They would reach out to me and say, "Hey, Matt."
That's on my notes. You told me that. Yeah, you used to write letters to get you to come here, right?
Yeah, because they were, because of the name Buzzcocks.
Yes.
All right.
Shocking back then.
They was shocking to everybody. The U.S. government didn't want to let them in, didn't think they had artistic value. So I had to write letters for the Buzzcocks.
When you worked at Columbia, right?
Yeah. Oh, and when I worked at MTV.
Okay.
And they were like, I was like, listen, you need to let this band, there's a reason why this band is, they've done this and all this. And it used to help them get their visas.
Worked.
Yeah.
Wow, man.
Which was so cool. So they're one of my favorite bands of all time. I mean, I loved... God, that whole, they made some great records even after that first run, but that first run was like, I was so sad they broke up when they did after doing the singles collection, Singles Going Steady, which was those early singles, and then the 3 albums.
Yep.
Different Kind of Tension was third, but it was like Another Music in a Different Kitchen, Love Bites in the third one, and then the Different Kind of Tension, and then the EP that had those 3 singles on it. I just loved them so much because you know what it was about them, Toby? They were not afraid to write about heartbreak and a lot of other things that are going on in your life.
Orgasmatic.
That was their sense of humor side.
But what do I get? Oh, my God.
Those songs were amazing.
Yeah, poppy love songs.
To me, they were like the originators of punk pop in my mind completely, which is why it made sense when they brought the Buzzcocks on the Warped Tour one year. And a bunch of people from different bands got up and sang Ever Fallen in Love with Someone You Shouldn't Have. Because
incredible song, dude.
It's one of the greatest songs ever. I was so in love with them, and I remember driving with my best friend who passed away. He committed suicide in '96. But when we were in the early '80s, when we were in college, both our girlfriends had dumped us. We got in a car, and then the cassette player in my car somehow broke. So we brought a boombox and we listened to Buzzcocks and stuff like that all the way down. We were like such big Buzzcocks fans. Driving to Florida to my sister's house.
Wow.
But I think Buzzcocks really, they're one of the most important and influential bands because they kind of opened up the door for punk at that period to also have that side of it that has romance and heartbreak.
Pop sensibility and the melody.
Yeah.
Like Descendants.
Yeah.
Ramones had a lot of pop
did.
sensibility.
Yeah, when I want to be your boyfriend and, like Don't Come Close. And there were so many songs. And I love Descendants that's another reason. I fell in love with Descendants too. In college radio, when Milo Goes to College came out, That was a game changer album for me.
Game changer, man.
You know, I love that record so much. Tell me about you. Did you love? I mean, I
loved it, dude.
I would play Hope and Bikeage and Catalina and On My Age, all those songs off that record. Suburban. I love that album so much. I think it's one of the best punk albums of all time.
Yeah,
And,
I got to see him on that tour too. That was the first out of town band I saw living in Rhode Island when Descendants came to town to like Providence. It was incredible, man. Just seeing them live and that record, dude.
Yeah. You know,
The lyrics, everything, dude.
The lyrics are so great. And you know what's wild for me? I thought that Bill was joking on parts of Catalina. But I asked him, hey, so he goes, no, it's true. I do go fishing all the time. He's like,
with Keith Morris, actually.
Yeah, right, exactly. And I didn't know that when I first met Bill. But
they grew up together.
Yeah, and I love Bill Stevenson, man. And when he went through what he went through with speaking of things that happen with your head.
Yeah, man.
And I'm just so glad he's doing well because I love that guy very
Legendary, incredible drummer, like Black Flag, just everything.
And just like
crazy cool style.
Yeah, and those All records too. They're so great. I mean, I love.
All records are great too. Yeah, I love All, man.
She's My Ex. What a great song on All Roy's Revenge.
That's
my top. Yeah.
Song, yeah.
Yeah, it's one of the best.
I still listen to that, man. That's an incredible love song, man.
Yeah, I love that tune. I played that on commercial radio. That's what's so cool.
Yeah, that song could have been a big song, man. It was so good.
I was always
so
saying
catchy.
to people, I'm like, if it was on Cruise, but like if it had been, if somebody had gotten behind it, that song should have been a smash because their version of it. I mean, they're all playing great on it. Carl, Steph, like everybody.
Was that All Right for Prez or which album was that?
All Roy's Revenge.
Revenge, yeah.
Right with the black and purple.
She's my ex, don't cross the path. Oh my God, dude!
I can't cross her from my memory. Yeah, it's such a great lyric.
So good, man.
She meant everything to me. She meant every word she said.
How about Everything Sucks when that came back?
Yeah, it's great. Well, that's a really important moment for me because when I was at MTV, and I was in the programming department.
Yes.
It was so important for me. Like, at this point, I was already hosting 120 Minutes. See, I filled in 93, then 95.
Changer.
Changed my life.
I know, but before that, I mean, real quick, though. You did like, you were DJing, you did the Melody Bar, you were musical director, you did all this stuff, like commercial alternative music director. Before MTV, there was like so much stuff you did, man. It was like.
Well, I was.
But and how do you get to MTV from all that? Obviously, you're building up a name. People listen to your show. You had a name out there in the radio world. Like, is it an audition? Like, how does that happen?
Well, it was really interesting how that whole thing happened because, I'd worked doing weekends at that radio station and I'd spun in clubs, like alternative clubs for like, from like 81 to like 94 when I went to MTV at the beginning of 95 full time.
Yeah.
I filled in at MTV in 93 with Depeche Mode on 120 Minutes, which was great. But I eventually got hired to program there. And the thing that was cool was I was working at that radio station on the Jersey Shore, which was one of the first 13 alternative stations in the country, which played a lot of cool stuff, like Prison Bound. Like there were things that were, we would play cool punk and Americana and then like alternative things you would expect, right? But it was like we were a lot more diverse than most commercial alternative stations.
Yeah.
And then, I had the opportunity to become music director when some management stuff changed.
Yep.
Guy came in from Washington, D.C. from the station HFS, which was a great station.
WHFS, it was great. I remember that.
Yeah. And so this guy, Mike Butcher, came in. It was really cool. And the owner goes, before you pick a music director, there's one more person I think you should meet. And that was, because the Melody Bar, of course, was so important, too. And we'll get back to the Melody Bar, too, and how I got turned on to, Op Ivy, Rancid, and Green Day, and Jawbreaker from my friend Bill Schultz, because everybody always learns something from somebody. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And, but it was really interesting because by this time, I all of a sudden I'm music director of this station, and then I can talk to people in the business. And you know what they said to me, Toby? They said, holy shit, man, you like want to play bands. You don't not want to play. And they go, you're looking for a reason to play music, not play it.
Yeah.
Which was my MO because I just cared about music and I want to give artists a chance. It was always
totally
the thing. So, yeah, I became commercial. I won this commercial alternative music director of the year for the country in 91. Same year that Nirvana broke, of course. Or no, 92 really they broke.
Yeah.
But in 91 and 92. So I won these awards, which were, I was in shock because I was like, first of all, they were in shock, I think, people, because they're like, man, nobody that wasn't from a major city. I'm in Asbury Park.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? We're like And it was beautiful, though. It was a beautiful situation. And eventually I met some of the people from the MTV music department.
Was that the Gavin
At
Award?
shows. That was a Gavin
Yep.
Award. Yeah.
Yeah.
It was a big radio thing. And
It's a big deal.
So to win it, was it 91 or 92?
It was 92, I think. Yeah,
92. It was 2 years. So
especially
it was
growing up in your basement, like doing like a DIY radio show, and then like this is like your dream, and you're actually doing it.
Yeah, that was the thing. That's why I've never gotten like I'm always keep my feet on the ground, because I realize that I'm so lucky and blessed to be doing things that I love. I'm still working in music.
Yeah.
Commercial radio, when I used that in college, even before that. So if you counted that, that'd be like 44 years I'm doing radio,
Dude, man.
which is a long time, and you're like 18.
Especially in the industry or whatever, just the world, how music changes, just everything. It's great, man.
Yeah, I'm very lucky. I've been fortunate, and getting sober for 4 years is what really has changed the game for me in the last 4 years, as I'm coming up on this 4th year.
Yeah, were you partying during the MTV days?
Oh yeah, I was partying. Look, it was crazy, because I gotta be. I'm being completely honest and revealing. Like when I started in the clubs, all the booze was free.
Yeah.
It was the '70s when like I was growing up, so like nobody really understood alcoholism at the time, and there were certainly signs of it, but it wasn't every time. Like there were occurrences.
Yeah.
And I just tried to think, maybe I did something wrong that time and didn't drink right. You didn't really have any education or information.
Yeah.
So, but when I got my first job DJing in a club at like 18, I was like, wow, how cool is this? I can meet girls, I can control the music, and play cool music.
Yeah.
And I can drink for free. And then I was introduced to cocaine and shit like that and speed, and I was like, at a young age, and they were like, oh, you at 18, and they were like, this will keep you up longer so you can spin more and drink more, and I was like, so that was
wow.
It was a slippery slope that eventually certainly caught up and caused disruptions, and luckily didn't kill me in my life, but almost did. I'm just gonna say, like, I'm very, very blessed.
Yes, you started at 18.
Yeah.
18, 19.
Yeah. So
So even when you got the job at MTV, you were still.
I would go through periods of sobriety there. Like I would take a break because I would see it getting out of control, or they would see it getting out of control. So it was like, hey, you need to like, So it was one of those things.
It was such a game change if you go into MTV, because MTV was such a household thing, and you getting your own the show on there, right? Like,
it's really interesting, and I got to tell you, when I did my last show on that station, HTG, which was a great station in Asbury Park, in Jersey.
Yeah,
I got to tell you that I did my last show. I stayed on the air for 6 to 8 hours. I can't remember how many hours, because I knew I want to tell you that not only did I never think. I never thought I was going to be able to be on the radio again. And I never thought, let alone ever being on TV, which everything turned out completely different.
It's crazy, man.
But I got the job offer to go full-time at MTV to help program the videos, which was an incredible job to have, because, it was like the head of pop culture at that period of time, and like in general. So, I was in that team of people. Manager of music programming was my title. But it really meant that I was one of 10 people that was picking the videos for YoMTV Raps, Alternative Nation, Headbangers Ball, 120 Minutes, and then working on the Unplugs and all this cool stuff.
Yeah, dude.
So it was an incredible opportunity and job, and how I ended up getting that was I filled in the one time with Depeche Mode, doing 120 Minutes, and I thought they were going to give me the gig because they called me up there, and I'm like, why would they call me to New York from New Jersey if they're not giving me the job? Doing this, or maybe they're offering me something. And they basically said, we just wanted to meet with you to tell you we thought you did a great job, but we're going to have Louis Largent do 120 Minutes because he's our VP of music.
Oh, that's right.
But we're going to use you as a backup sometimes, so we just want to let you know. My heart sunk, because I was like, it wasn't what I was, you never know what to expect. But at the same time, it was like, it was encouraging. So how I ended up working there full time was I would leave a message for eventually became my boss more than once, Andy Schoen, the head of music and programming, and I'd leave him a message once a month. Nobody had, there was voicemail there, but there certainly wasn't the internet yet.
Yeah.
And one day I got the call. I was out with them, and I was literally out with some of the music department. He wasn't there, and I told them that I was kind of ready to move on from the radio station because I was working 5 jobs, and I really. Yeah. I won 2 Music Director of the Year awards. I loved what I was doing, but I had a daughter, and I needed to try and make more money. Not have, so, it was unbelievable. I eventually got the interview to go up there and be in the music department, and I got the job, which was unreal. Did I ever tell you the story about how they were trying to call the radio station? I couldn't, of course, let the radio station know that I was looking to leave for another job.
Yeah.
But this radio station, as influential as it was, only had 3 lines in there.
Okay.
It was 3 phone lines. It was really, it was a very important radio station in the history of New Jersey, and so influential because New Jersey is so proactive. Stone Pony, Fast Lane.
Oh yeah.
All those venues, the Saint, all those places down there, and then in New Brunswick, and and basically. When I told the people in the music department that I would leave, they said there was a job in another state, like Providence, Rhode Island, BRU, because they paid the program directors to be there, like in music directors.
Yeah.
And I said, I might be interested. They're like, you'd leave HTG? And I'm like, yeah, I consider it, because I was never one to complain about, make it whatever it was. I was just working 5 jobs because I loved being around music. So
yeah.
And eventually got the job offer. And I got the radio station. I hope I'm not going too far off on it.
No, this is great. No, it's good.
But I wanted to just tell you, Toby, I'm sitting there, and I know they're going to call me about this job. I don't know what it's going to be, but I get a, they call and say, Andy's going to call you. Andy Schoen, who was the head of senior. So I'm like, so here I am. I get off the air, and I'm like, the phones, there's 3 phone lines in this radio station because it's in a house.
In the house.
Yeah, so it's in a house. It was the owner lived in the other part of the house. This is how wild it is. And the antenna, which is giant, was in the yard there, like in this big property. And so bottom line is I can't let people know that I'm getting a phone call probably about working at MTV. But the phone lines are all busy for hours because there's a request line, there's a sales department in the basement, and a production department, and there's so I'm like, I'm sitting there like projecting, oh, they're gonna change their mind because they can't get through. They're gonna think I don't want it.
I'll be freaking out too.
I was freaking out. All of a sudden,
no cell phone,
no cell phones, no internet, teletype there for news in the closet, and I finally the phone call comes through. He goes, Matt, Andy Schoen. And I go, Andy, how you doing, man? He goes, hey, I've been trying to reach you for about 3 hours. I'm like, Andy, I'm really sorry. There's only 3 lines here to get through in the radio station. And he goes, I'll tell you what, come and work for me, and I'll make sure you have more than 3 lines. And that was it.
That was it.
That was it. And then
I
gave my notice, for it was like a few weeks. I didn't, I wanted to give him as much notice as I could. I did my final show, and I went home and I sat on a kitchen table just like this, and I had a bittersweet feeling in my heart. I was like, man, I know this is a great move for me, and I'm very excited to be going to MTV. This is an incredible opportunity. But, man, am I going to miss being on the radio? And I never wanted MTV to think that I had a hidden agenda to be on TV again. So I never, ever mentioned it in the first few months I worked there.
Yep.
And I literally just took care of bands that were coming in. And, at this point, Henry would come in as a guest. And I'd hang out with Henry Rollins, and he'd be there with Jerry Lee Lewis. And it'd be it was just cool people. And I was having a great time and really enjoyed learning how to program with them because I came from a programming background. And because, you, I love all different genres of music.
Totally.
And I could hear different it was what an incredible experience that was for me.
You were just happy to be there. You weren't trying to be on the TV, not trying to.
I wasn't. And so I thought that part of my life was gone, past me, not being on radio or television. I thought I got the one shot of TV and that was fine. And I was happy with that because this was an opportunity to grow as in a business that I loved, which was music. And all of a sudden, a few months in,
okay.
Maybe it was I'm not sure how many months, but I can tell you this. They go to me, hey, you're pretty good that time on the air. Oasis are coming in and they don't want to host.
Bro.
They go, you're going to host for 3 weeks. We'll let you know how it goes. And so,
Oasis?
Yeah. And, before this stuff happened, Bruce Springsteen from, the Asbury area and Freehold, the nicest thing he ever did was he called the bosses at MTV when I first went there, which I found out. I don't know if I told you that. This story was, it's, Toby, one of the most. Yeah, so Bruce, one day when I'm in the music department, this is before I go back on the air. We're going to see a Page and Plant show at the Meadowlands Arena in Jersey.
Sick.
And all of a sudden, all the people in the music department start imitating Bruce Springsteen with my name in it, going, yeah, Pinfield. I'm like, what? I go, what are you guys on about? And they're like, Springsteen called the bosses for you, man. I go, what? I go, but you guys are full of shit. And he goes, all of a sudden, they go, no, Bruce really did call Judy McGrath and Tom Freston to tell them to look out for you. And I go, well, what did he say? And they said, basically, Andy Schoen tells me about my boss. He goes, because he told me the next day, because he wasn't at this show. He goes, yeah, Bruce Springsteen called up the bosses and said, look out for that guy, Matt Pinfield. He's not a corporate guy. He's good people. He loves music. Make sure you guys look out for him.
That's some goosebump shit,
Can
man.
you, I mean, like,
Bro.
totally, I mean, that was the.
Vouch for you there, yeah.
You know, you couldn't tell Bruce Springsteen, you couldn't pay Bruce Springsteen any amount of money to say anything he didn't mean or care about, right?
Had you known him or
need
met
it.
up with him?
Yes, I mean, I'd met him a couple times just to talk music at shows.
Yeah, he knows you're real and you really love the music. You're not a corporate guy.
Yeah, and he came to some of the Christmas shows that we put on with the radio station.
Yeah.
But he would listen to the station, which is why he covered the Saints just like Firewood when he would go to, because we were playing like the Saints. Late, like in Australia, he covered that, and there was no other place in New York. I mean, he's obviously always, but back in those days when the station was first starting out, but he was amazing, and I waited 7 years to thank him. And this is the crazy story is.
So you never saw him for 7 years, okay?
Well,
yeah.
I saw him at a show. I went to an Asbury Park conventional Christmas show, but I had to go back north, so I saw it. I waved. He saw me from the audience. I just kind of said, and then I left. After. And then, the really funny thing is maybe a couple months, because I'm trying to, it all blends together after a while. I'm older now, but.
You have a great memory, though.
Yeah. Toby, the best thing was there was a woman who worked there named Lauren Levine who ended up running like Oxygen or Bravo or doing a lot of stuff there. And she was in charge of the VJs themselves, right? So her and I, she loved Oasis. We were going to one of their shows a few months after the first time Bruce had reached out to the bosses for me there. Yeah. And she says to me when we're on our way to the show, she goes, Bruce was asking about you last night. I'm like, what? I go, what do you mean, Bruce? And at this point, I think he's already forgotten me. I'm like, I'm a dead memory. I've been I've been not doing shows for a while. Yeah. And they were at the Sony Music Studios while he was rehearsing they walked by, they were there for a Michael Jackson trailer for that Double History thing where they were moving. Yeah. Tom Brokaw and Diane Sawyer would go through, and then the VH1 music department, and then MTV for this Michael Jackson trailer. But at the same time, when the bosses were there at night from MTV and VH1, Bruce was using one of the other rooms in there to rehearse for his acceptance of the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame award with the E Street Band. So they were playing. So they kind of they shuffle in to the room in front of Bruce, and they're on the side, and he's finishing a song. And this is the funniest thing. This was the craziest thing ever, because he literally turns around and goes, "How you guys doing?" They go, "How are you, Bruce?" He goes, "You guys taking care of Pinfield?" That's what he says into the microphone. And they go, "Of course." He goes, "All right," and turns around and starts playing again. So this was all in the same. You, man. Well, it was in the same 4 months or something. But it was the most beautiful thing, because you think people forget about you.
Didn't have to do that. Yeah. Like you're on his mind, like he's caring and stuff.
Yeah, that was one of the most.
Wow.
So
man.
7 years later, I'm working at Columbia Records after 9/11, where I lost my apartment on John Street because we had just moved in there.
That's right down there.
My youngest daughter, Maya, she was 1.5.
Wow.
She was supposed to be in that daycare in Battery Park where the kids all lived, because those women were so great, but they put them all, that thing was under rubble. They put all the little kids on a boat and got them over to Jersey City, but their parents didn't know if they were alive or dead for 8 hours.
Holy
Can you imagine?
Shit.
And my kid, Maya, my baby, she had an earache the night before. So we didn't take her to the daycare that morning, and because I was an A&R guy at Columbia, I didn't have to be in until 10:30, 11. We were going to take her to a pediatrician.
Oh, my goodness.
So she was home with us when the towers came down. And we were 2 blocks away.
That's freaking gnarly, man.
Man, so it was...
You were 2 blocks away when that happened?
2 blocks away, man. I saw the second building plane hit from my window on John facing the Hudson.
That's got to be so surreal, because on the TV it was surreal. You're right there.
Yeah, I was right there for it. It was insane.
Oh, my God.
But I was so glad she was home with us. I was numb. Just wanted to get her out of there safe.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But
wow.
You know, and I'm thinking about all that. So then, you know, Bruce does The Rising because in reaction to what happened there. By this time, I'd been working for a while at Columbia, maybe, I don't know, a year or something, maybe 9 months. And we're invited in certain people to certain, you know, like, you know, I eventually made it to vice president of Columbia Records A&R for rock and alternative. And that was
awesome.
And my boss has said to me, this is cool. They go, I know it's in your contract to take that VP position. They go, my friend goes, don't do it until you have a hit record because I don't want you to be under the microscope because they gave a shit.
Damn.
Will Botwin, he now manages like Brandy Carlisle and a bunch of people.
Yeah.
But he basically said that to me, and I didn't. And then when Coheed and Cambria went like top 5, who I signed after
Shout out to them, good dudes, man. That's cool.
Great dudes. That's when he said, all right, now you can be. So the deal was, you know, here I am, speaking of working in the corporate world at that period of time, but it was still music, and it was really an incredible education. And I had, you know, some great times at Columbia, and I also saw what everybody else sees. You know, you work on records that you love and you care about, and they don't get what you
don't
get
the love,
the love that they need, and it's heartbreaking. It's so heartbreaking when you're working on a record and you care about a band and you know it's a great thing, like, you know, Acceptance, Midtown, all these bands that I signed. And
like, Midtown, that's right.
You know, so I felt they deserved a better shake, 100%. But so that you know, that breaks your heart. Still love those records and those people though.
Totally.
But you know, so I got to see Bruce, like, you know, he comes in and plays The Rising, and then they kind of shuffle us by him on the way out. And I go, Bruce, I've been waiting 7 years to say thank you for the call you made to MTV and stuff. And he goes, Matt, of course, man. He goes, don't mention it. It's totally cool. He goes, what do you think of the album? Like, it was the greatest. It was so Jersey of him in a cool way. Like, he's like, of course, man, don't worry about it. He goes, you like the record? You know what I mean? It was so great, which I did.
Yeah.
I mean, Lonesome Day, kicking that record off just killed me. It's such a great song. And so there's like all these beautiful moments. I'm very,
crazy
very
moments.
You know, I have so much gratitude for these moments that I've had.
Yeah.
You know.
So you're there a couple months, and all of a sudden they say you should be on TV, like you should.
Yeah,
have
they
your
were
own
like,
show,
well, they basically said, because what happened was Lewis didn't want to do 120 minutes anymore. First of all, I filled in because
was that a big show at the moment? Was that a big show before you were on it?
Yeah, well, it was very important if you wanted to see new music, like that was, and certainly more punk started coming across the thing there when I got there.
Yeah, because
you had, you know, Kurt Staffick and Rick Hankey, who were behind it, and Lewis and people like that wanted to give more people a chance. And I went in there and fought. I would go in there and fight for bands, like we had to. That was what our job was.
Yeah.
The 10 of us, we would, like, you know, we would debate. No, I never saw any knockdown drag-out fights in there, but
yeah.
But all right, you know, we'll talk about some of the people that we fought for. But one of the great things was getting to bring the Descendants on 120 minutes.
Woo.
And Rancid, of course. Because I got there in time to play all, like, Salvation and stuff off Let's Go and the Roots Radical single and things like that.
Before Out Come the Wolves, yeah.
Before Out Comes the Wolves. But then I met Tim.
Best.
And we became friends, and I loved him. And then he and Lars came in. They'd watched me one night talking about a song called "The Bottle" on their first album.
Okay.
And they were surprised and happy to see somebody there that really knew the music and loved it. So that really opened the door. And that interview's been watched by a lot of people on YouTube. It's up there, you know.
Yeah.
I love those guys, and it was like I said, it was an incredible. And then Out Come the Wolves is one of my all-time favorite albums.
Woo.
So it's
then you played the video. I'm in Time Bomb.
Yes, which is amazing, which I love. Speaking of people that you've done things with, I love that you were. You know, I probably didn't finish answering your question, but you know, the thing is, Louis Sargent didn't want to do the show anymore. He kept saying, I don't want to do this. Matt should be doing this show. And then they let artists do it again for a little while, and then they were like, you know what, we should give Pinfield another shot. I went on with Oasis, then it was somebody else, and then they said that after the very second show I ever did, the first one on the second run, they said, it's your show. And because they were impressed, and then it was a beautiful thing for me, and I was just happy to be there. I was like, again, this was all kind of shocking and happening very quickly.
Yeah.
For me.
Were you nervous interviewing Oasis?
No.
Okay.
I was like, at this point, here's the thing. I wasn't even nervous interviewing Depeche, but I was like, I was never been on TV before in 93, so I was like, that was all new for me. Like, I've been on the radio a million times, but I'd never been in front of a camera. So that was like all trial by fire.
Yeah.
And but I believe that my love for music was the thing that would transcend that, which is why I went for the audition in the first place.
Mm-hmm.
And
were you ever nervous interviewing any bands?
I wasn't. I mean, I probably was. I mean,
Like a
there's
certain artist?
There's one person that I was not nervous interviewing, but I was nervous to meet the first time was Paul McCartney. I mean, look,
Of course.
when I met Paul, and this is funny. This is in '99 after I've already interviewed a ton of other people, right?
Yeah.
I've been interviewing people since I was 16, right?
I know.
And but I was at this thing at Roseland, a club that you played, that
course.
we've hung out at many a times.
Yes.
In '99, and I already interviewed so many people that I loved, and so I basically go to the show he has for Buddy Holly's birthday, and it's like a private event, but there's a lot of people there. And I go with this guy Steve Kingston, who Steve ran K-Rock for a while and Z100 before that.
Yeah.
Scott Shannon, who was a big DJ in New York and the
Oh,
old
yeah, I
B
remember that
stations.
name.
Really great guys, man. And because we would talk about radio, and since I love every era of music, I would talk to those guys about old stuff, and it was so cool. And plus, what's his name? Steve Kingston. I'm saying, what's his name? Sorry, guys. It's been a long time. Steve Kingston was the guy who hired me to be on K-Rock in New York.
Okay.
When they flipped from classic rock to alternative rock.
Yeah.
And let me play whatever I want. I played you guys. I played.
Ooh, I remember K-Rock. Yeah.
Remember on K-Rock. It was great. It was awesome to meet you. Nice to meet you. It was great. And so, I was... there's so many great opportunities. But meeting McCartney that night, I was almost afraid to, and I'll tell you why.
Sometimes you want to meet your heroes, too, sometimes.
Yeah, and it was like, that McCartney night was funny because I saw him walk by another guy and kind of like walk the other way. But that's because the guy kind of froze. And I think he's got radar by now, after being in the Beatles and Wings,
dude.
that he was like, this is awkward, I'm just going to keep going. So Bill Flanagan comes up to me, who's a friend and, a writer, used to be in Musician Magazine. He goes, man, have you talked to Paul yet? I go, no, man, I'm not sure I'm going to. He goes, no, go up. He knows who you are. Go up and say hi to him. I'm like, wait, I just saw him shine some guy walk by. And he goes, look, man, just go talk to him. He goes, come on. And meanwhile, the same night I met Buddy Holly's widow, Maria Elena, who was still beautiful, and she was so cool. And she was standing there with Dion. It was badass. And then Smithereens were playing.
Ooh,
and
Smithereens.
And the Crickets. Yeah, the Smithereens I love because they're Jersey brothers.
Yeah.
And the Crickets with Sonny Curtis, who wrote I Fought the Law, their second singer. Dude. So he was on stage, and it was a great night. Yeah.
Wow.
And then I walked up to McCartney, and I just said, what am I going to say to Paul McCartney? And I go, hey, Paul, I love that you work with Elvis Costello, because I'm a big Elvis Costello fan. So we start talking about that, and then all of a sudden I got the balls to say, Paul, I know you took a lot of heat for being, in Wings, the stuff that you took. I go, but I always tell people from these critics, I said, hey, maybe I should just backtrack and see it a little clearer. I just said, I go, Paul, you've taken a lot. I've seen you take a lot of heat that's really unfair over the years for being in Wings. But I go, and I said to him, I go, anybody who can write a song as metal as Helter Skelter and as beautiful as Here, There, and Everywhere, I go, fuck them. They've got nothing on you. And he loved it.
Really?
He broke into a smile, and he was like, hey, are you going to come to my party next week I'm having? And I go, yeah. And, of course, I wasn't. I was moving to California to do Farm Club in 4 days. Jeez. But I didn't want to kill the moment. So I said, yeah, Paul, I'll be there.
Wow, man.
So, but it was a beautiful moment. And then years later, I got to interview him and, of course, do album specials with him and sit. And the nicest thing he ever said to me at the NPR studios, he said, when we were done, it was a rainy day in New York City, about 2014. Yeah. And he goes to me, hey, Matt, if this wasn't my wedding anniversary to Nancy, you and I go to a pub and continue talking about rock and roll. And, it's amazing. That meant the world. Yeah, you know? So I'm just grateful for all these life experiences. I think that's the thing that's really amazing when I've gotten sober. It's not that I didn't appreciate him before. And I've always been, I've always at the reason why, I'm still here is because I do have love in my heart and a lot of kindness and a care. And certainly the music is the most important thing in the world to me. Yeah. And people, because I love people. I mean, what would it be without my friends, my family, my girlfriend, and people like yourself, people that I love, like my friend, Yeah.
Was there a time where you thought you might have lost your job because you were partying, or you maybe lost your life?
I have temporary lost jobs and
okay.
Oh yeah, and almost lost my life. Oh yeah, all of it. I mean, I was suspended. I had some rough moments, you know what I mean, without a question, where I just But you know what? I mean, the amazing thing is that I'm still here.
Yeah, of course.
I'm still standing. And I think people always were rooting for me. I mean, unless people secretly were somehow jealous, and that's on them, not on me.
Totally.
It's never about you when it's something like that.
100%.
You know? It's like the 4 elements.
100%.
You know what I mean? It's like,
yeah.
It's their problem.
Did it change your life being on TV as far as like people recognize you and just
did
it change a lot for you? Like,
oh yeah, it changed everything really. It was really interesting, but it didn't change the same spirit of love of music that I had.
I know, yeah.
But I will tell you, it
but
was
like just everyday life.
the
walking
wildest thing. It certainly did, Toby. It was the wildest thing was one day I'm leaving the MTV building, 1515 Broadway. And I was already well known and like I had a good following in New Jersey, right? Because that's where I was from,
roots,
you know.
Yeah.
And but one day these people stopped me in Times Square, like right there, and they're like, "Hey, Matt, how you doing?" I go, "I'm good. How's everything back in Brunswick? You guys been to Melody lately?" They're like, "Melody, we're from Ohio."
Wow.
And I was like, "Oh, okay."
Yeah.
That's when it hit me. But do you know I never ever realized while those MTV years were going on how many countries were running those shows that I was doing? I met a guy literally this weekend in Rome who said, "I watched you on TV."
Damn,
here in Italy.
man. Damn.
I've met people out that said, we loved you in India. We loved you in, like in Brazil. I actually saw myself on TV in Brazil doing an interview with Portuguese subtitles.
Wow.
On TV, which was wild.
It's so crazy.
So those are the kind of things that are surreal. But, for me, it was always important. I mean, I think what I was always really taught by my father, and I was just always remain and just other people that I've known over the years, is to just remember to be humble and remember
100%.
how great. And that's just, it's a natural thing for me. I mean, I'm not saying I was never an asshole, but
did it get to your head at all sometimes?
No, I think the thing that got to my head was obviously alcohol was the problem. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
and I think when you know what I mean? I think I wasn't, wasn't naturally, because when I wasn't, I don't know. And I saw people change in your reaction to you. You know what I mean? Some people were really happy for you that you were friends with, and some people were either
jealous
or couldn't get around the fact that all of a sudden
this was happening to you.
Yeah. And then I think everybody goes through that when they get a certain amount of notoriety or fame.
Yeah.
What
about like your participation in helping kind of break punk in 94, 95 with playing Green Day, Rancid, Offspring, all these bands? You were part of that. And we talked off the part about Civ.
Yeah.
That video. I'm actually in the video too.
Yeah.
Of course, I'm the video vixen of the 90s.
Yeah.
But that became a buzzworthy video. That was a crazy time.
Yeah. That was a beautiful thing for me because I discovered Gorilla Biscuits, another band that my friend Bill had turned me on to.
Yes.
And and then I would see, I loved Gorilla Biscuits, and then you sang on the first album.
Yeah, man.
You know what I mean? And one of the things that blew me away about Gorilla Biscuits was I was so blown away that they did Sitting Around at Home by the Buzzcocks. Ooh. And it became a big part of their live show. Everybody would go wild when they would do that song. And I loved that. And I loved Gorilla Biscuits. So when I found out that Civ and those guys had a new band, and we got that video for Can't Wait 1 Minute More, we all went crazy at MTV over it. And I was one of the people who pushed to make it a buzz clip.
That's incredible,
to get them real exposure for the Set Your Goals album. And so
it was nonstop on MTV. It was crazy.
And I was like, we got to make this a buzz clip, man. This is great. And buzz clip, that meant the difference between sometimes, it would change an artist. They would go from point A to point B or C. It was very, very important for exposure. And I believed in that. And then
I think they played MTV or something. Did some beach out.
Yeah, they did something back then. They did, and but what's wild about Civ too is, and I know, man, you probably talk to him still all the time, right? He's back in New York and he's doing tattoos.
He was on the pod recently. Yeah, he's killing
I love
it,
Civ,
man.
but I love Walter, all those guys, man. I love
Quicksand.
Quicksand. I'm a huge fan of Quicksand.
Rival Schools,
Rival Schools, all Walter stuff, and I remember, this is the best. This is how I became friends with Marco Siega.
That's my dude, man. He directed that video,
And I love that guy. So he came up and they put his name in wrong. Somebody put in Marco Siega, and he came up to the MTV offices and he goes, "Hey, man, how you doing?" And he goes, I'm looking for somebody that can actually help me get my name spelled right on that thing. I go, "Oh, I'll do it." And then all of a sudden we struck up a friendship.
Wow.
And I loved Marcos, and he was... he was in Bad Trip. He did all those videos.
Yes, dude. Then he did the Blink videos.
Yeah, Blink videos, which were he did so many huge videos. POT, and he did my favorite Sick of It All video, Step Down.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean? With like
Mosh Bar. Yeah,
the Mosh Bar with the Pizza Man and everything. Some of the greatest. Do you see? I love Cro-Mags and Sick of It All. I love all that hardcore.
Were you playing Sick of It All in there too?
Yes, I did.
Maybe Scratch the Surface. I was in that video too.
Yeah, I played them all. Those on 120 minutes. One of the things that was important for me was to bring the punk element of all the punk stuff that I love, the new punk that was going on, to 120 minutes. I
love that, dude. So people listening now can see where that came from.
Yeah,
because people don't really know much about you, didn't know where you came from. But obviously I knew your history. But even before you were on, I remember seeing Cro-Mags for the first time. We got a no video on Headbangers Ball.
Yeah, exactly.
That was insane.
And that's thanks to all my guys over there. Like Kurt Stefik and the people that worked in the music department and Lucy. It was important.
Yeah.
And so when I look back on all that stuff, what a cool scene that was.
And just being able to play stuff that you like and and push bands from the scene and local bands and all that stuff.
Yeah, I never realized what an impact. I mean, I knew it had an impact, but it was just so great that it was actually really reaching people. To this day, Toby, one of the most beautiful things that I can say happens on a regular basis, people say to me, hey, I learned so much about music from you. You helped shape my musical taste. This is why I love this band. And that's one of the most beautiful compliments you can get in your life, because that's all I ever wanted to do from the time I was a young kid was turn people on to music and new music and let them know about things that were going on. And I, again, was really early on, loved punk rock right from the beginning, Generation X. Do you know I actually made my own? There was no merch back then. I made my own Generation X Valley of the Dolls homemade T-shirt to go to the high school graduation rehearsal.
You did?
Yeah, I was wearing a Generation X T-shirt.
Own thing?
Yeah, I made myself. How funny is that?
I mean, there are no hats back there either, so.
Yeah, well, of course. That's why the cowboy hat I had to get rid of. No, but isn't that funny? But
yeah.
Yeah, so that was my thing. I loved punk rock back then and Clash again.
And then you were part of the whole Nirvana, just that whole wave.
Well, yeah, we were certainly part of all of that, and even doing it from from the radio station. HTG was really important when there were only 13 radio stations before I went to MTV full time. So
dang.
So it was really. I'm very grateful to have had all those platforms to turn people on to music.
I know so many platforms, from Sirius to like KFOG.
Yeah, KFOG and I did Sirius XM,
I know.
Lithium and First Wave and Alt Nation.
95.5 New Improved.
Yeah, I'm still doing that. KLOS. I got
Secret Spoken Word on Limp Bizkit record.
Yeah. That was fun. That was crazy. On the Limp Bizkit record was fun because I got a phone call from Fred and he just said, "Hey man, I want you to be on the end of this record. Do you want to? I want you to just talk shit about the band." I'm like, dude, you already did that on the Korn record. Why don't because All in the Family said, why don't I do something where I'm just ripping on, boy bands just for fun of it, And not that I have anything against those guys.
Yeah.
Like I'm certainly, friends with a couple of the guys from those bands, like Chris Kirkpatrick from NSYNC.
Get your ass kicked.
Yeah, right. So the funniest thing in the world was Did
you ever interview Eminem?
Yes.
Wow.
And I interviewed Eminem. See, there's so much to tell you because after I left MTV at the end of 99, I ended up working for my boss, Andy Schoen. He started a TV show with Jimmy Iovine. And Dr. Dre and Eminem were the first guests on my show. They did the theme song for the show. I hosted the show with Ali Landry. I remember interviewing for the job in in Jimmy Iovine's office. Another, speaking of a Brooklyn guy, right?
Oh, yeah.
And I fly out there, and then I go to Andy, my boss.
Was that not Farm Club? No, what was it?
His Farm Club, yeah.
Farm Club, it was 99, yeah.
Yeah, so it was funny because I remember going to Andy. Hey, so am I going to fly back and forth from Jersey? And he goes, fly back and forth to Jersey, you're moving to L.A.
Wow.
I moved there the first time.
And it was Dre and Eminem?
Yeah, they did the theme song in the studio with Ali Landry, my co-host, just like sitting there, and they just did it on the fly. And so the first episode, and there were multiple, I have Dre and Eminem there on
Is that intimidating?
No. By that time I was, I'm, it's
You've met so many people by that point. It's like,
listen, I'm so, for me, there's so many moments.
Yeah.
I think the thing that blows my mind the most, I think, is just, the whole situation with David Bowie and how we met in 95 after all the times I'd seen him, and they knew I was a Bowie fan, so there was a private dinner for Bowie. I don't know if I ever told you this story.
No, dude.
So I'm in the MTV music department. I'm pretty new in it. I'm just going to have a drink of water.
Let's go, bro. This is epic. This is my favorite. For the listeners, man, I've done like 260-something episodes, man, for almost 5 years. This is amazing, man. It's just, the listeners are going to love this shit. What's it going?
Yeah. So I will tell you, so this was, I love Bowie growing up because when I discovered David Bowie, excuse me, I realized that there was a whole other world of music out there, and I actually got to tell him that sitting on a couch in his place across from him years later.
Come on,
but but it's amazing. So I'm working in the music department at MTV. They know I'm a big Bowie fan. He comes in to present a new album, which I think at the time was Earthling or Outside. I'm just it's escaping me at the moment, but they're having a dinner for him. And Virgin Records, and it's at the Bowery Bar, not the Bowery Ballroom, of course. And the Bowery Bar has a back room, as you know, that restaurant.
Yeah.
You know New York like
totally
more than anybody, right?
Yeah.
You know. So we're in there with people from Virgin Records, MTV people, our music department, and all of a sudden they decide to sit me right in front of Bowie and Iman at the main table.
Terrible.
And then my bosses, the ones I told you about, Tom Freston and Judy McGrath, like talk about pressure. It was just my bosses around me. And Bowie and Iman sitting directly in front of me. Sure. So it's either going to go incredibly right or terribly wrong.
Yeah.
So, I had a couple Jack and Cokes to loosen up because I was like, or maybe one at that point. And I wasn't pounding it by any means because I didn't want to embarrass myself. But all of a sudden, Bowie and I kind of really, we locked minds. We when I say that, I mean, I had all these questions to ask Bowie about Mick Ronson, about a bunch of other things.
Yeah.
And he was so blown away by he just loved the conversation we had. And then next thing you know, and I have a photo of me and Bowie meeting for the first time that night before this dinner. And by the end of the dinner, David says to me, "Hey, Matt, listen, I'm going out on a tour with 9 Inch Nails. I don't want to do any singles. Would you like to help me with my set list? I love your suggestions." So, yes. So, this is true.
Come on, man.
And what's so wild is, Stephen Hill, who ran BET for years, has told this story to many people. Andy Schoen. They want to know my suggestions for the set list. And right off the get-go, I said, well, Nirvana, because they just did Manos of the World. Smashing Pumpkins did Moon Age Daydream. Stone Temple Pilots did Andy Warhol. I just started naming these songs off. He did them all on the tour. But here's the amazing thing. He goes, I go, well, what's the best way to reach you? He goes, well, and at that point, I think it was either fax. I mean, maybe it wasn't. He wasn't about what So here's the deal. This is 95, right? But I mean, the internet was in its infancy still, but we did have internet at MTV. But believe it or not, he gave me his number. He handed it to me, and Stephen Hill was smart enough, who ran BET, to take it because he knew I just met my hero. Because I went out and had some drinks that night on Bleecker Street and everywhere near there. And I was like, I can't believe Bowie just asked me to
his phone number too.
And gave me his number. And Steven gave it to me the next morning because I had
you would have called. Yeah, that would have been.
I would have lost that. Maybe.
Or he called him drunk or something.
Yeah, that wouldn't have been good.
Wow. Did you reach out to him how soon after? You holding that number?
Literally shortly after that. And then I went up to the rehearsals of the tour with him.
Did you call him on the phone? And he answered sometime there. No,
I was too nervous.
I'll be so nervous to call him, dude.
But eventually, a couple years later, he called my cell, and it was the wildest thing. So I end up, all that stuff happens. I go to Radio City one night with Tom Freston, who's the chairman of MTV, and I was on the side of the stage, and David comes off and goes, "Hey, Matt, how was the show? Was it good tonight?" And I go, "Yeah, you were great." I'm thinking to myself, "You're David Bowie. You were amazing." It was like a great tour. It was and it was incredible. And so when I left to do Farm Club with Jimmy Iovine and all those guys. And
meeting Eminem and Dre, it's you met your heroes.
Yeah, but I end up going back years, a few years later, 9/11 happens, okay? I'm doing A&R Columbia Records.
Yep.
And Tony Visconti, the producer of Bowie, T-Rex, Thin Lizzy, Morrissey, you name it, gives me a call and says, "Matt, I got an artist I really want you to see." And it was of course, I had so much respect for Tony working with Bowie and Mark Bolan. And I think it's a Monday night or a Tuesday night, and it's early in the week, and he goes, "Come to CBGB's gallery to see Christine Young," who happened to be his new love interest, at the time as well, and producing her. So I go down there, and this is after 9/11, maybe month later.
Yeah.
And it's still, remember, that's September 11th. By October 11th and 12th, it's still warm enough in New York to eat outside and stuff,
Yeah.
you know, on certain days. So before the weather got insane. And so I'm sitting there at that show, and somebody taps me on the shoulder, and it's Bowie.
Bro.
And Bowie goes, Matt, how are you doing? And he goes, what do you think about the whole thing that just happened at Virgin with, like, the two principals, they're Ken and Nancy Berry. These people were let go. They were, and he had a key man clause with them, too, meaning, like, if they weren't there, he could leave to go to any label he wanted. But you know what I said to him? I go, hey, David. I go, you know what's funny? I was going through all my storage units because we were, like, displaced because of losing our apartment 9/11. He goes, I found the Diamond Dog sheet music book from like, 1974. I said to myself, I never asked people for photos or for autographs. I go, but I said to myself, I should have asked you to sign. He goes, Matt, I'll sign anything. What are you doing right now? I go, my wife and kid are up on 8th and 50th Street in Longacre House. We're staying there temporarily because, you know, we don't have a place right now because of 9/11. And he goes, just come have dinner with me. And I go,
man.
And I just go, okay. And I get in the back of a town car with David Bowie, and the plate says Bowie 1, and we're driven to a place in Little Italy. We go through the kitchen. Bro, it's surreal. It's just me and Bowie. And we go through the kitchen, and it's not very far from Looking Glass Studios, the one where you recorded with Philip Glass owns, like, Bowery and Canal, or Broadway and Canal. But it's in Little Italy, and we're sitting there, just me and him, like.
That's so crazy,
and
man.
then Tony Visconti shows up with Christine Young, and eventually David's assistant Coco, who was his assistant all through since '73, and we're all just sitting there telling stories. Like, Matt, tell us your 9/11 story, and we're like hanging out.
Wow.
So he goes to me, hey man, I want to play you my new record. He goes, I'm gonna reach out to you, and he emails me and says, hey, can you come to Looking Glass Studio and meet me? And he's going to play me the original version of Heathen before it changed. And that's what this story's really wild is about.
Dude.
So here we are, and I go to Looking Glass, and David's sitting by himself in like a little room, like kind of like a green room, little like vocal booth studio. Well, something with a couple chairs.
Yeah.
And I go in and I go, David, what's going on? He goes, man, Interpol just found outfits that were stolen off the stage in Portugal during my Aladdin Sane tour. He goes, you know, and I always tell people, I don't mean Interpol the band. I mean the police organization, international. And so he goes, yeah, I want them back. They were mine. I go, I don't blame you, man. And it was amazing that I'm sitting there talking to David about that. And all of a sudden, Mick Rock walks in, and then Tony Visconti shows up. So we're all there, these legends that are like part of his career. And I'm in this place, and Mario, Tony's engineer, and David goes, I want to play the whole album for you. So he plays me the original version of Heathen, the album, the one with like the Pixies cover. When we're done, he goes, hey, Matt, I'm going to call you because I'd really like to play it for you and sit with you again to talk to you about some ideas for remixers or things we could do. And I'm like, bro, David, anything you want. And I'm like, he's never going to call me again, but that's really nice of him to like say that. So the next day, not the next day, but maybe, you know, sometime that week, all of a sudden, is that my girlfriend? Yeah, it is.
Come hang out. This is incredible.
Yeah. I got to finish at least.
Now we're chilling. This is going.
Yeah, but I'm telling. Oh, yeah.
This is. Going,
and by the way, Toby's dog it loves me and is sitting next to me now, which is so great. But I'm sitting there, and at this point, I'm doing A&R.
Yeah.
I signed this band who were called Trouble Is that eventually put out a record called under the name Star Trouble. They were like kind of punk pop band, but
yeah,
I was looking for somebody to mix some demos. And Steve Thompson, the producer who mixed Appetite for Destruction, was in the studio and was my friend. So I went to the Hit Factory.
Yeah.
And he's in there working on a Wu-Tang album, Iron Flag. He had just produced or mixed. And he's working on, I'm like, hey, Steve, I really need you to, like, I want to know if you'll, like, I know it's only a demo deal for this band, but you think you'll produce it for me or something? Because we had a friendship. And all of a sudden, it's Tuesday. I walk over to the other board. My cell phone rings. I pick it up. And I answer it. And he's like, Matt, David Bowie. And I'm like,
dude.
And I'm like, yeah, David, what's going on? And he goes, how you doing, man? He goes, hey, Matt, what are you doing tomorrow afternoon? And the dumbest thing ever comes out of my mouth. I go,
you said your plans?
No. Yeah, well, listen, I said, it was something like that. I said, Oh, David, Wednesday is the label lunch for like, and I can't believe I said, which anybody who's a senior director and over goes to label lunch for like the whole rundown of the week. And I go, and then I stop myself. I go, did I just fucking tell David Bowie that I couldn't see him tomorrow? And then I go, and then literally, he goes, well, Matt, well, that's all right. What about Thursday or Friday? I'm like, David, I'm free any of those days. And so like he goes, no, Friday's fine. I'm going to send you the address and send you a ride. So I go to his place.
His house?
Yeah, which is downtown, like in that area, 4th and Broadway and all that area, where those downtown.
Surreal, man.
And you want to talk about surreal. It's like, this is like something you never would, these are the things that are beyond your wildest dreams. And you're
going
also
to his house.
Yeah, so I'm sitting there and Coco's there, his assistant, because she's always like been at his side till he passed away. And, she was always there, like, being a real assistant to him since Aladdin Sane. And so he goes, Matt, I want you to hear a whole album again. I want some ideas for remixes or some cool things we can do. And here I am sitting across from David Bowie. We're on 2 couches. And he says to me, I'm sorry, I'm like my throat, but he says to me, Matt, he goes, I want to tell you how much I appreciate your love for my music and your knowledge, because it just really, it really blows me away. And I go, David, I wouldn't be sitting here if it wasn't for your music, because when I discovered you at the age of 12, I knew there was another world of music out there.
Yeah.
And that opened the door for me. So to actually have that interaction with one of your heroes.
That's insane, dude.
And then this really crazy thing happens where he plays the album. I hear it for the second time again. And I give him some ideas of what I think would be good remixes.
Did you love it? Obviously, you love the record.
I love a lot of parts of it. But here's I did. I thought it was a great album.
Yeah.
But here's what happens. Coco, his assistant, is sitting over by the player, right? She's over in the corner. She goes, David, I think you should play those 5 other songs for Matt. And he goes, well, I don't know. I go, David, you got to play them for me. And he goes, all right. He goes, go ahead. He goes, let me know what you think of these.
Oh, man.
First one comes on. It's a cover of Neil Young's I've Been Waiting for You. He goes, what do you think? I go, David, you got to put this on a record. He goes, it's a Neil Young cover, right? I go, yeah. I go, but it's great, man. So eventually that ends up on the record, believe it or not. But here's what happens. Then he goes, all right, what do you think of this next one? So she plays me Slow Burn, which he got the Grammy nom for. He wasn't going to put it on the record. He goes, what do you think of this one? I go, David, I don't know, man. I think you got to put it on the record.
Wow.
And so there's 2 in a row. So by this time, he starts to get like a little bit, he chain smoked. So he was like, he starts walking back and forth off the garden, like the patio thing. And he comes back after the 3rd song. Everybody says hi and goes, what do you think of this one? I'm like, David, I hate to say it, but I really think you should put this song on the record too. And he goes, now he's like, all right, let me know what you think of the 4th one. And he's starting to like kind of second guess himself, and he's walking back and forth. This is wild. And I couldn't be dishonest with him. So he plays the 4th song, and he looks at me and goes, all right, what do you think of that one? I go, B-side, soundtrack. He goes, whew. He just like literally runs his and then he plays me the 5th one. What do you think of this? I go, also a B-side. I go, it's, and so.
Like how honest you were with him, yeah.
Yeah, and man, that's why he was, when I didn't tell him I loved the 4th one, I think it meant so much to him. He knew I wasn't just like some Uber fan. Yeah. He loved that. And man, so when I was leaving, he told me he knew I was friends with Scott Weiland. And, he said he had been through his problems with alcoholism and drugs. And he said, if you want me to ever talk to Scott Weiland for you, just like I'm here,
Wow.
I left that day, and it was another surreal experience. The really crazy thing about it is those 3 songs David ended up putting on the record and taking 2 off of Heathen.
That's incredible.
He took off the one that was about Uncle Floyd, which was like, it was cool, but it was like, it wasn't as good as any of those 3. And there was Sunday Reprise. He took that stuff off and put those 3 songs on.
Wow.
Which is mind blowing. And when I wrote my book, all these things that I've done.
Yeah. I was going to ask you about that book, and if you do another one someday.
Yeah, I'm going to definitely work on another one. Now that I'm, I figured when I was sober 5 years, I was ready.
Insane Probable Rock Life.
Yeah, well, that was because it was like, it was unbelievable for me. I still pinch myself over all these things, man. And I just try to never be. There haven't been a lot of times where like I've been with somebody and just gone, holy shit, because I try and always keep my composure, and I think. this is where I belong, so I should be here, right?
Yeah.
Because I love these artists. This is why shouldn't I be the one doing the interview or doing this? Because I care so much. Did
you have imposter syndrome sometimes about it? Like, I don't deserve to be here? Or?
No, I never felt I didn't deserve to be here. That's one thing I can honestly say. But I did feel like because I always, for some reason, had the ability to stay in the moment and think of it just at this second. Except the one time that it really dawned on me that I was sitting there interviewing one of my heroes was Pete Townsend was sitting next to me, and he was whispering in my ear. And he walked into the booth at South by Southwest. We had this booth for DirecTV, and it was like I was anchoring for 3 years, like 3 days, 8 hours in a row for this company. They turned the convention center into 2 makeshift venues for these broadcasts.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, Townsend stands up in there, and he goes, "Pinfield, I've heard about you." And I'm like, holy shit, it's fun, because I love Pete. I mean, I love especially Quadrophenia.
Yeah.
Well, I love a lot of their stuff. I mean, everything with my generation and I Can't Explain Up, and there's a lot of great years there and albums that mean the world to me. And he sits next to me before the interview starts, and I said, Quadrophenia is an album that kind of changed my life. Not kind of, it did change my life, because that would sound literally, that kind of changed my life. That wouldn't have sounded good. I didn't say that. But
one song did, yeah.
But then he starts talking to me. Can you imagine if I really said that? But I really did album did have a lot. It was a really important record to me when I was a young teen. And he goes, and so he's talking to me about like new bands, Kaiser Chiefs at that time, people like that. And he says from here, and that's the one moment when I went, holy shit, that's Pete Townsend whispering in my ear, which is wild,
Yeah.
And then we went into the interview, and that was fine, but. I've never really felt the imposter syndrome because I actually do really believe that I've belonged doing
100%.
what I do.
Yeah, you fucking paid your dues, and people love and respect you.
Yeah.
They can talk to you about music. No, it's not fake. You're not a corporate person.
Yeah.
Where you come from.
Yeah.
It's like.
I mean, I've had some incredible opportunities, and I appreciate them all. And so, but I still pinch myself about the things I get to do, and
still do.
Did
you see Bowie after he had success with that record?
I did see him.
I told you so. I'm just kidding.
No, I never said.
I know. I'm just kidding.
I was like, in fact, when they did the deal with Columbia,
wow.
Shortly after that, I made sure to keep very cool and let the main bosses take care of it because he was such the important artist.
Yeah.
That I was never like. Here a perfect example of I was never that guy that had to have the credit, like and blow his own horn. Perfect example is something that touches both yours and my life. My brother Glenn turned me on to The Harder They Come in 1970, whatever year.
This is a good story.
And you and I talked about this because it involves our dear friend Tim Armstrong, of course.
Mr. Armstrong.
And the Agrolites. And but how that whole thing with Jimmy Cliff, my brother turned me on to reggae. And my older brother Glenn was just so cool, man. And he's still with us, thank God. I mean, he's been suffering from Parkinson's, which has been really hard to watch your brother suffer.
I can imagine, man.
Who I love dearly. But I mean, he tells us stories about hitchhiking to Altamont and like just crazy stuff when he was a teenager. And, we get him laughing, and he loves to talk about music. And that's the thing that gets his mind off his suffering from Parkinson's. I love him so much, But he turned me on to The Harder They Come. Like he had brought that album into the house when I was a teenager. He's like, dude, you got to hear this Jimmy Cliff. And I'm listening to that. And Toots and the Maytals, and I'm like, I just fell in love. Many Rivers Across, The Harder They Come, Pressure Drop, all this great stuff. Before the Clash turned me on to, really got me into that, and really those guys bridged the gap between punk and reggae. Man, those guys created it. Even the Police said that it was hearing Police and Thieves by the Clash, and Elvis Costello said he wrote Watching the Detectives after he heard Police and Thieves by the Clash.
That's awesome.
So there's there's some really cool stories out there. But so how this Jimmy Cliff thing ties in with my brother, which was why I didn't need credit.
Yeah.
But I did. But what I needed to do was something that had to do with the betterment of music and a repay to someone you love. I love the Harder They Come so much that I always thought when I heard the Guns N' Bricks and by the Clash that Jimmy Cliff should cover the song. Because the whole final verse that Paul Simonon wrote is about his character Ivan in the movie, The Harder They Come. And he mentions it in there. And, of course, Guns N' Brixton is a iconic song, and so And London Calling is one of my favorite records of all time. You know, obviously.
It's in my top 2 for sure.
Yeah. So it's
not
up there.
top 2 top records. Yeah.
Yeah, it is.
It's
But
perfect.
so I'm at a dinner or lunch with this guy who I know who worked at Warner Brothers and is going to manage artists now because he was like got out of the record business. He's so he says to me, "Hey, so I'm going to be managing Jimmy Cliff," and I look at him and I go, "You know what Jimmy needs to do?" I go, "He needs to cover The Harder They Come." I mean, no. God, I'm getting the story backwards. Sorry, it's been a long. I did some shows before this today, so you know, good. And I'm also still jet lagged from Rome, but I'm like,
sure.
But anyway. So to reiterate that, so what I did was, I looked at him. I said, you know what, Jimmy, it'd be cool. Jimmy Cliff should do a cover of the Guns of Brixton, because I always thought it'd be great because the Clash mentioned him in the final verse and talk about his character.
Yeah.
If Jimmy would take the song and turn it back into a reggae song, and sure enough, he goes, you know. Talk to Jimmy about that.
Wow.
So Tom Barry, his nickname's Grover, who used to be at Warner Brothers, goes over and asks Jimmy. Jimmy's open to the idea. So it thinks it's cool.
Crazy.
So Tom Barry calls up Tim Armstrong. And I'd already had Tim, like I bothered, Tim had the flu one day and I asked him to come make sure to be in the video for Cypress Hills, What's Your Name, What's Your Number, which had the Guns of Brixton riff in it.
That's right.
You know?
And
Tim played on it. But at the time, Tim, I think, said, oh man, you know, I'm always. He goes, let me think about it or whatever. And then Tom Barry said, Tim, come on, it's Jimmy Cliff and your friend Matt. He goes, yeah, man, I'll do it. And you know, Tim agreed to do it, which was really nice and generous of him.
Yeah.
And it turned into this EP where they covered Ruby Soho.
It was great, man.
And then the next thing you know, it goes so well. They do the album Rebirth. And then Jimmy Cliff wins a Grammy for the album.
I know, man. I remember that. Dude.
So that all started with that conversation.
Wow.
With me saying, and that is a way that you're paid back without having any credit on a record.
100%.
You're being paid back by seeing something change in music. You're giving something. That was one of the most beautiful moments for me. And it was a way of saying thank you to my brother in the same way.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
So I loved when they did that, and you know, Jimmy wanted to thank me. So he was at South by Southwest a year, and Tom Barry said, "Come to this event. Jimmy's doing a gig." It wasn't Tim Armstrong wasn't there, but the Agro-Lights guys were. And he goes, "Jimmy wants to thank you." And so I go into this like shack, like it's this weird thing that's like off the beaten path in Austin, Texas. And it's like it's like an apartment, but it's so cool. It's very old school. It's like cool 50s, 60s stuff we love. Yeah. You know what I said? It's like it's awesome. It almost looks like a bamboo kind of shack, but it's like still got a answering machine in it.
Awesome.
And this is like 2010s and stuff,
Crazy.
Right? So I go in there and Jimmy sits me down and says, "I want to say thank you for making this, suggesting this, and it changed." I go, "Listen, man, I got to tell you, Jimmy, I've always." And this is what I said to Tom Barry too, but I said, this is just, it's a great moment for me to see you get this credit and pleasure, credit that you deserve. And then he starts telling me about how he wrote Many Rivers to Cross, like walking across like a little bridge on the way to the studio, humming it in his head. In 15 minutes, went there and told the guys what to play, and did Many Rivers to Cross. Like just wrote it on the way to the studio in his head in 15 minutes. And I was like, and I got these great Jimmy stories. And then literally there's a voicemail and like an answering machine voicemail type thing.
Yeah.
And Tom goes, "Jimmy, is it okay if I play Matt the Bruce Springsteen message?" And I go, and he goes, "Yeah, man, that's all right." And so I just basically hear this message, and it's like, "Jimmy, it's Bruce. We're opening up the ACL, the Austin City Limits Theater. You want to come do a few songs? We're going to rehearse tomorrow. So it shows in 2 days." And sure enough, Jimmy got up there and played with him that night, and it was killer.
God, that's incredible.
I mean, he was in a red suit, and he sounded great. But while I was walking out of that like standalone like shack type hotel thing, condo, another guy walks in and goes, "Jimmy!" And it's Robert Plant. So it was like, and then Jimmy played like outside, played like a few songs. So you can get it if you really want, and things like that. It was a really cool moment. But for me, that's the real reward of being in music, and that's part of the punk rock ethos always.
Totally, man.
It's just like, you know what? I'm grateful for all the credit I've gotten, but what's more important is the things that you've done to affect people's lives. So you know what I'm saying? Like, like I don't have to blow my own horn because I'm just grateful that I've affected people's musical tastes and helped other
100%,
musicians
man.
in their lives
Helped
is the
so
most
many
important
artists,
thing.
man.
And I've always loved doing that. It's still important to me because, I mean, music is everything.
It's everything
to me.
dude.
Music and people.
Yeah.
People that you love, those life experiences, that's everything. That in music. And music has always been something that I've, like you could go to,
It's a nice escape. It's healing. It's everything.
Yeah.
It unites people. It's just like.
Yeah.
I wanted to ask you about too, about your accident in 2018, like how that changed for you, like the life-changing incident, like you hit by a car basically crossing the street, right?
Yeah, and I was not. I always say this, and my girlfriend will always say. He always says I was sober that night, but I was because I was like
you used the woman's one because I think my son might have blew up the other one. Maybe go straight. Check both. There's one down the hallway to the right, and there's the other one.
Yeah,
go ahead.
So too. You're getting hit by a car on December 3rd, 2018 for me, Toby, was a.
Do you have to go pee too? You good?
No, I'm good
Okay,
right now. Yeah,
This is amazing.
it was a life-changing event for me. I mean, I think you go through certain things, moments happen in your life. It's a Monday night, and I was literally, going to shortly try and go to a meeting, recovery meeting, and
Oh, you just been sober from then, right?
Yeah, I mean, well, this
Yeah.
wasn't when I just fell out all the time I got sober because
Okay,
I
okay.
drank again after that. But the
Yeah.
thing is, not right after that. But I was literally crossing the street, and it was unusually quiet on Franklin Avenue in Hollywood.
Franklin Avenue, yeah.
And although that's a crazy street, right? So I'm looking left to right, and I don't see anybody, and then I look right when I get to the third lane, and sure enough, I see a car gunning towards me. It's like the most terrifying thing. I mean, you don't even have time to think about it, so I just jumped up. It snapped my right leg in half, my bottom part of my right leg, compound fracture, I need a bone. I went through the windshield with my head. I went into the car, and it tore my head open and part of my ear off, my right ear. And I literally went in, and then the driver hit the brakes, and I went flying out of the car onto the street. Now, it happened so fast that I didn't even know that my head had gone through the windshield. It was just bing, bing. And it was like, all I remember is jumping up and then flying over the hood of the car. Like the going through the windshield with your head, I didn't remember. It tore my head open completely.
Dude.
But I remember I was in like an adrenaline shock, so my senses were heightened, and it was the weirdest feeling ever because I could smell the hot engine and the oil. It was weird. And then I landed on the side of the street far away enough to not get run over again.
Jesus,
but
man.
I laid there, and I was conscious for it all. And then people were coming out from like the one-on-one coffee shop and all the like strip mall and all the stuff over there.
People know it was you at all or no?
No, because I had a beard at the time, and like people thought I had red hair, but it was really a bloody head that was torn open.
Wow.
So people didn't really know till a neighbor walked up there and said, "Oh my God," and I said, "Can you find my phone?" And I called my ex-girlfriend at the time and said, "I've been hit by a car. I don't know if I'm going to live. I wanted you to know this, that it's in front of the building."
I can't imagine the adrenaline, just all that.
It was
fear,
it was insane. I didn't know what to think, and then it took them 9 minutes for the EMS to get there, which is crazy because it's only 3 minutes away, and everybody was calling. Like it was. They said. One friend said that they heard me hit at 7:47, like the plane.
Yeah.
Literally, they knew when I was hit because it was so loud. It was like boom, like you could hear my body hit by the car. And they came. They carried me on a tarp because they were afraid that if they moved me by themselves, it might be more internal injuries started. And I'm laying in this ambulance, and they put a morphine in my arm and cut off all my bloody clothes. Cover my body and just say to me, "Mr. Pinfield, can you feel your toes?" And I said, "Yes, I can." And they looked at me and said, "You're an absolute miracle, man. You are so lucky to be alive. Most people that took your head would be dead or paralyzed." And I was like, they go, but we got to get you to the hospital now. So they brought me to Cedars-Sinai because I had to get my brain scanned to see my brain was swelling. I had to get my head sewn back up and a lot of stuff done. And of course my legs. So it was crazy.
How long in the hospital for?
I was in 2 separate hospitals.
Okay.
I don't remember the exact dates, but each one for at least like a week, I think, or something, maybe more. I was there in ICU, of course, trauma center, and I went through those machines. And this is the funny.
So scary, man.
It was the scariest, but it was crazy. Is that like they have me doped up, but I hear doctors talking, and my face is taped up.
Oh.
And one goes, and it goes back to my aneurysm with like the train tracks on my head because it's the other side of the head. So both my heads have been open. It's so crazy. I have a scar on both sides now.
Nuts.
So, which is very hard for people to see. So one guy goes, hey, are you going to use staples? And the other doctor says, no, I watched him on TV. He loves rock. I'm going to sew him up slowly. So So the guy that was in the trauma center was a rock fan.
Wow.
And it was painful. Even with all those drugs in you. Getting sewed up like that, and do you know that they didn't even get all the glass out? So for months, it was pushing itself out of my skin, skull like shivers of glass, because they couldn't possibly see it all. So
you cut open and get that out later?
No, it actually just pushed itself out. Your body rejects it. It's the weirdest thing in the world. So it was doing it for months.
And then what about the person that hit you?
Well,
what happened?
You know, I don't know, to talk about the Los Angeles Police Department, they didn't really do anything. And the person, what we did find out is, you know, they had the insurance, put it this way.
No insurance?
They had insurance, but it was only enough to barely cover my hospital costs. I mean, it didn't even cover them all. So I was kind of, what's the name of that song by Mudhoney? Flat Out Fucked. So anyway,
scary.
But look, I had to be a positive guy and be grateful that I was alive. First of all, if you look at where the scars on the top of my head, it could have taken my eye out. If my face had been to the side a little bit, it could. You know, I mean, so many other people have had worse things happen to them, which is what I remember every day about everything. I mean, you know what? There's always somebody who is struggling more than you are that they try and look at the positive, even on the 100%. Worst days. And that's my I like to be positive and spread a positive message, not only of recovery, but appreciation for music and life, because I'm so grateful to be here. Yeah. I mean, there are many times I came close to not living. And so,
no, I know.
So, you know, this was one of those situations where I was in the hospital for a good week or so, and do you know it took them 8 hours before they could operate on my leg because of my irregular heartbeat, and heart rate was so high from the adrenaline.
Wow.
So, like, they wouldn't give me water, so they gave me these little sponges that look like the end of a pencil, like the eraser.
What?
And I'm like, can you please just give me another little more water?
It's like little sponges in your mouth?
Yeah. That's all they would let me drink because they knew they had to operate on my head and my leg. My head had already been sewn up.
Yeah.
But in order for them to... They had to put a titanium metal rod on my leg and reset it. So I was in the hospital for a week, and then they moved me to another hospital, the California Rehabilitation Institute.
Oh, rehabilitation, yeah.
And,
how long did that take to get back walking and everything?
I literally was walking on a walker painfully. I went to shows as soon as I got out of there. I went to the Chris Cornell tribute show.
Oh, yeah.
The Killers were playing at the Forum, and, you know, they dedicated the song they wrote about me to me, all these things that I've done, song that night. And a lot of people, you know, there were so many people that were moved by, you know, from like Howard Stern. He was upset about it too. You know, even TMZ were doing stories on me, but they don't see anything bad because they like me there. Like they're not, because there's no shit. They can't shit talk.
They didn't do anything bad.
Yeah, so they were like, you know, like they were saying, he's brave, man. He's got a great attitude about this, and interviewed me in my my hospital bed.
Are you serious?
They even followed me once to the airport in my wheelchair. What? But Howard was you know, like when he was on the air, and his producer Gary Delabarti probably sent it to me in the hospital because he knew I wouldn't have heard it. That how Howard was like upset. You could hear him stop giving the news that day, and he was upset because we worked at K-Rock there together, and he was always such a great dude. He was telling Robin, Matt Pinfield got hit by a car. He was almost killed, and then the story broke on TMZ, and it was everywhere, like People Magazine and everywhere in the world. It was insane how much it was.
So many people reaching out to you and stuff?
Yeah, it was an unbelievable outpouring of love.
I think it must have felt amazing, yeah.
Well, it was so reassuring, and I think it's one of those things where the people that you said to me, some people said, Matt, you got the most unbelievable outpouring of love that you could get not being dead. You know what I mean? The fact that you survived. To see how much people cared. And, you know, that was also really the catalyst. You know, it took me 8 months to walk again without a walker and a cane.
Cane, yeah.
But I mean, I just kept going at it. Now I can hike. I hike 3 hours in Griffith Park. I mean, I'm up there I mean, I
awesome.
came back strong because I decided that's what I was going to do, and then eventually got totally sober.
Yeah. What was the ice like? What made that happen? What was like rock bottom? Was that moment?
Well, it was just another bad situation where it was during the pandemic.
Oh yeah.
And
which would make people drink probably more if they're
it
drinking.
did. I mean, it was one of the biggest epidemics because besides, the COVID killing people, people were dying from alcohol and drug abuse. They're so depressed, scared.
It was dark, man.
And people go through a lot of it anyway. And it was a crazy time. My friend Chris Trevero, who works with Fat Mike, and he was like, Matt, I hear you. You don't sound right, man. What's going on? I think you're slurring a little bit. You been drinking again? I go, yeah. And I just told him the truth. And he goes, all right, man, we're going to get you some help. And I talked to my friend Harold over at Music Cares. And
Music Cares is amazing, by the way. It saved so many of my friends.
Yeah, they're the greatest. Yeah. They're the greatest. And they've helped me before. And they were just, and Harold said to me, he goes, I think you need to go, Matt, you need to go away and get some treatment, but you need something that's a little more intellectual because you need your brain to be stimulated and to really look into the causes of alcoholism and some of the other stuff. So I went to a place in Sausalito, California. And
had you gone before in your life?
Oh yeah,
Okay.
Yeah. I was I was up there like Anthony Kiedis and people like that. I mean,
wow.
Where I went more than a few times. Yes,
okay.
I went a lot. I mean, I did. I mean, I was constantly trying, and people were constantly trying to help me, like Dr. Drew and Bob Forrest and all the people you would expect.
Yeah.
I turned down Celebrity Rehab though. I said, "Fuck that! I'm not doing that shit."
Smart. That was a smart move.
Yeah, that's like I'm not like because I take this very seriously, being alive and sobriety, but I don't take myself too seriously, but I do take wanting to stay alive.
Yeah, of course.
But I will say, and that wasn't me saying fuck you to Bob Forrest and Dr. Drew. They weren't booking the show. It was producers called me up, and I just said,
of course.
Or they called my friend my agent at the time who represented me, and she said, hey man, Celebrity Rehab called. I go, tell them fuck off. I didn't say it like that. No, I'm not. I'm just saying it as a joke. I'm like kidding around. No, I just said tell them I'm not interested.
Yeah.
I just thought that it wasn't for me. And I'm not disrespecting Drew or Bob or anybody involved with the show. Those guys are I love those guys. They've been really helpful to me.
But when you want to do it for yourself. You don't want to be filmed. You want to be, what I mean?
Yeah. I wanted
journey.
to be private. It was my personal journey. It's just like like the things we do in recovery. It's like,
How long are you there for?
You like 30 days.
Okay.
It was crazy, but it was good that I went. On the way up, I'll tell you the story. I'm driving up, and I'm literally like, I'm in the car with my friend Chris Trevero. So Chris works with Fat Mike and No Effects guys, and Chris goes, I go, Chris, who am I going to be paying back for this? Because I know they're going to take the money when we get there. He goes, oh no, we started a GoFundMe. And I go, Chris, you guys can't start a GoFundMe. It's a pandemic. People, like I was freaked out. I didn't have any embarrassment about or shame in the fact that I needed help.
Yeah.
But what I did, I felt really not comfortable with people putting up money for me. And he goes, no, it's already done, man.
Wow.
And then
doesn't Music Cares do that too? They put people
they do part of it.
Okay.
Right.
Okay.
So, but the rest
of
money
it too. Yeah.
Yeah. It's very, these word got out, and all of a sudden, all these musicians were helping me out and putting money up there. You know what I mean? Like, like I won't mention the punk rockers who are, well known because if they did, I know they donated, but maybe they don't want their name to go out there. But then other people,
as long as
yeah, I mean, and the other people that did donate. I mean, it was everybody from, like people in Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers to like Perry Farrell,
man.
Johnny Resnick and Brent Smith from Shinedown. They all put money up.
Goo Goo Dolls?
Yeah, Johnny Resnick put up $5,000.
Love Goo Goo Dolls.
Yeah, he's such a great guy. They're a great band, and he's a great dude. So he was.
Things, yeah.
How kind was he to do that? So those guys.
That's nice. Yeah.
They put it all out there.
It's real love, man.
It was a beautiful thing, man. And then there was this thing that happened where, it was all of a sudden, Chris had reached out to a writer who he knew that was a big fan of Against Me. Ooh. And she said, look, I'm doing this thing for Matt Pinfield, and I want to know if Rolling Stone will have any interest in doing this thing because we're trying to save his life, and And then he gets a letter back from Jason Newman over there, who's the news editor, and he says to him, "Let me tell you my story about Matt Pinfield. That when I was an intern at MTV, there were like 30 asked 30 people for help with my final paper and thesis for college, and everybody blew me off except Matt Pinfield.
Wow.
And he said, I was the only one that would give him the time of day, and actually asked him how much time he needed. And he said, how about 2 hours? And I literally sat in my office and helped him with his thesis.
That's beautiful.
And, and I found that out later when I talked to him to thank him afterwards, but I was already in. But Rolling Stone ran a story in support. After I'd been out for 60 days, they wanted to run another story about relapsing during the pandemic. So Rolling Stone wrote 2 stories, and then they put me in, Variety's sober issue. So that's the best thing in the world, because you know what I love about it? It's all out in the open. There's nothing to hide.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I take my sobriety so seriously, and I'm very grateful to be alive. So
it's changed your life dramatically, right? Everything.
Oh, it's unbelievable how much it's changed my life.
Yeah.
Yes,
because you've been drinking since you were a teenager, 18 years old.
Yeah, probably. Well, probably younger, like 11 or 12.
Okay, the cocaine was 18. Sorry.
Yeah,
Before
cocaine was
that.
18, but I was drinking accelerated at 18 because the drinking age was 18.
Exactly.
In New York and New Jersey. But
wow, man.
I've learned so much, and now for me, it's about being given back, and I do a lot of service work for people.
That's awesome.
Because that's what I believe I'm here for. And if you can bring a lot of joy and pleasure and heart to people with the music that you turn them on to, and music history, because I love to tell stories about what's behind a song and a record. To me, that's my favorite. It's like I live for that. I love to tell people, man, what they were thinking and what inspired a song, or what happened at that session, or what was going on. That stuff, I'm still fascinated by it. I'm always learning. I always told people are like, well, you're a music encyclopedia. I go, you know what? I never have ever said, I know a lot about music, and I'm very grateful. I do know an awful lot.
You know a lot, man.
But, there's always somebody who knows more, or something they can teach you.
Totally.
And I'm always teachable. So you can always continue.
You want to learn more.
I want to learn more. Every day I want to learn more about new artists.
I was going to say, you still listen to new music.
All the time. Yeah, it's very important for me to do that. I could never get stuck just listening always. First of all, I will always listen to old stuff that I love. There certainly will. But I've got to hear new young artists and people that are putting out music, even if they're not young, that are putting out some cool music, because, I love that feeling of hearing something you love for the first time and just going, wow, I need to hear that again right now. You know what I mean? Like, that feeling is one of the...
And there's so many new punk bands I'm listening to, young bands.
Yeah, there really are. There's some great stuff. I love that. I love that my both my daughters...
Yeah, one of your daughters is straight edge. She loves Knock Loose.
Yeah, correct? She does. Yeah, Oh, she loves Knock Loose.
That's so cool.
Turnstile. She goes to see hardcore bands all the time with her boyfriend.
Turnstile, the homie's great. I'm so happy for
and
Turnstile,
she's
man.
that's Maya. And Jessica loves music too. And Jessica was there for me. I got pictures of her with the Buzzcocks when she's like 7 years old. It's me, her, and Pete Shelley, and Steve Diggle at the radio station, and
So she turned you on to like new punk bands and stuff too?
Oh yeah. Maya will. Maya, it's amazing. So yeah, and Jessica too, like, has her own taste. I love that they have their own taste. It's like I've definitely turned them on to things that they like and appreciate, but they find their own way. They're individuals.
I love that.
And that's all you can really ask for. You want them to, what you want for them is their happiness and health,
of course,
more than and mental health and everything. And,
yes. But the music stuff they kind of discover on their own.
Yeah.
Like
tell me what were you gonna say.
My sons grew up like on punk, and me and my wife punk, hardcore, hip hop in the house, blues, jazz. But then he found death metal. He found Fit for an Autopsy. He found black metal and all this crazy music. Like, I never really was into Slayer and all this type of music. It was too. I like melody. It was too crazy for me. But he's opened my mind to Slipknot, all these different groups, because of his his taste.
Yeah, and I think that's great, because I love a lot of stuff too. I mean, of
course.
I've always been that way. Like, when I just DJ'd, as I said, over in Rome the other night, which is like, if you told me, these are one of the things about being sober that's so great.
DJing at 62 in Rome. That's incredible.
At 62 years old in Rome. People going nuts because they not really. There's so many people spin now just with laptops or with files or sticks, folders, that I was spun with 45s that I carried on the plane.
So cool, man.
And people were going nuts out of my own collection.
Yeah.
And I bought a few cool records while I was in Italy, because I went to the punk store, Radiation Records, and then I went to Miller Records, a couple places. and bought records, because I still like to buy records from bricks and mortar stores all the time to support.
Yeah.
And I try to buy a T-shirt at almost every show that I go to, so that I can put some money back in the pocket of a band, because it's so hard for bands to tour right now. And that's always been one of my practices is buying a T-shirt, which is why I have the most. It's taken over the apartment.
I was going to ask you how many. You have so many T-shirts. Mostly black too, probably.
I mostly wear black. You know what I mean? I don't know. I wear black.
You have hundreds of T-shirts.
Yeah, I mean easily. It's ridiculous.
Wow. You could do like
what do you say?
Couple hundred, 400.
I would say probably like over 500.
Yeah,
Over
it's
500.
insane. Yeah, but I need to at some point.
Your own museum.
I need to document them. I'm so glad I'm doing tours at the Punk Rock Museum, by the way.
Yes, you're doing that. Yes.
How exciting! I mean, for me, that is so exciting to actually do that.
I'm excited to go there too. I see all the videos. It looks awesome.
Yeah, I mean, because I love the history of punk. Punk was one of those things where we needed it. I needed it so bad at that age when I was 16, 17, and then punk and new wave for me. It was just like it was exciting.
Changer, man.
In so many ways. And I
think you're going to be an incredible tour guide. They're going to get so much information from you.
Yeah.
Just one photo, I can't imagine, like you, because you have so much knowledge and love for it. Like, it's going to be unreal, man.
Yeah.
Tour.
I'm so excited to do it.
Each thing's going to be like 1 hour breakdown of the whole thing.
Yeah, I think it's probably going to be, they said it's 1 to 2 hours. But
it is?
Yeah. Probably with me. It could be.
One of my questions: you optimist or pessimist? But I know you're optimist.
I'm a total optimist, because I mean, there's certain things obviously that I see that are taking place in the world that don't make me very happy, and we see that. But I'm an optimist because, man, somebody has got to be a positive light, and I'm going to be one of those people, because I've been gifted the ability to be alive, to find my way out of alcoholism and addiction. To have all these incredible experiences with music, seeing some of the greatest shows, the beauty that music's always playing in my head. Like like the minute I wake up, there's a song going. Like there's always something, and the fact that I've been able, and going through some lean years and some years that are better, obviously, but working in music and radio, what an unbelievable gift I've had,
Crazy,
I say. I'm so grateful at looking back at these experiences, and that I'm still having these experiences.
Yeah.
But I'm a definite optimist, because I just do believe in the power of the love of people and the power of music. I just do.
Yeah.
There's always going to be people out there that aren't great, but you just try to find people that bring you up and that are, that are like-minded, you know what I mean? Open-minded, like-minded, are capable of critical thinking, but also, aren't afraid to show their love and that side of themselves,
Yeah.
I'm very grateful. I mean, I think, God, I mean, like, it's just like you and me hooking up Toby after, playing you back in like 96 and like starting to play you on the radio and on TV and just like, and being a fan and calling you up on the phone. Remember when when we got introduced, I'm like, hey, my friend gave me your number, Toby. I want to support the band.
I remember. I know, man. Even just like you even knowing about Hazen Street in there and all the stuff I've done and being on GB and those videos.
Yeah.
The knowledge, man. It's incredible, man.
And I love that. Because to me, that's what's important. I used to just live to look at those sleeves.
The liner notes.
The liner notes, man. Because,
thank yous.
Yeah, and you see who they thanked and who they toured with.
What shirts they're wearing.
Yeah, and then you'd go find that record or that band or that tape or whatever the way you did it. But that would make you look further. 100%. And again, it goes back to that whole thing of being an explorer in music and
searching and
further.
Finding and going to record stores and all that stuff before the internet.
Yeah, exactly.
It's a beautiful time.
It really was. I mean, you had to work hard for it.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not saying anything about it. I'm not knocking anything else. But I will say that when people were coming up to me that were there at that DJ thing I did in Rome, going, man, that vinyl sounds so warm, sounds so perfect, like the sound of the records, because it wasn't just a file. But I'm not against that either. I mean, I understand, progress moving forward, and I do like the ability to be able to stream. I mean, I won't lie. I'm not going to lie to you. I mean, like, it's great that when I'm dying to hear a song that I haven't heard, I don't have to search for it.
Yeah.
But I also believe one of the big problems is they don't have everything. You ever notice, like, and they'll lose licenses, like, like on Spotify and Apple and those and music services. All of a sudden, an album will be there, then it won't be, and you're like, where'd it go?
Yeah,
like,
true.
So there's all this stuff that's tied up in rights, and they don't pay the artists enough. But that's a whole nother
Yeah, that's
story.
another story.
But very, very grateful to
I want
be
to talk
here.
about New and Improved as well.
Yeah, so I've
The
been
Mike Ness interview was incredible.
You
He never does interviews.
I know. Mike and I have had this really incredible friendship and understanding of each other through a lot of stuff. And I think, when I needed to talk to somebody about what I was going through, he was there for
He's
me
been
in
sober
a big
many,
way.
many years. Yeah.
Yeah.
Man.
And he just from the heart, Plus, I was such an early supporter of Social
Prison
D.
Bound, you talked earlier.
Yeah, Prison Bound. I
Yeah.
loved, man. And and Mommy's Little Monster.
Woo.
And, I was always just such a big fan. And when we finally met back in that period of time in the 80s,
Yeah. He's a real one, man.
yeah, he just had such a real, he had that real rock and roll heart, man.
Such a cool style, man.
And a great songwriter I love him, so.
I loved all their success. All those records he get played on.
Yeah.
When Angel sang, just all those Ball and Chain.
Yeah, those songs are incredible.
Dude.
Those records are great. No matter what, he just comes from this place that it's just such a great classic American feel of
dude.
rock, punk, country, whatever you want to call it. It's like
He's like the punk rock Elvis of our time.
he is.
Especially living in California. It's a phenomenon, dude. It's crazy, dude.
It's amazing, and I'm so grateful that he is doing better after the tonsil cancer.
I know. I watched that interview. I saw videos he posted him singing again. It was emotional, man.
It really hit me because he reached out and said, look, I only want to do one interview,
Bro.
for this to talk about this and the tour and the new record. He goes, because we've always had that friendship and trust.
It's beautiful.
Which was like, I was totally blown, I was just like, I was blown away by it. Mike always, this is the feeling that, you know what I mean, Toby, that I have for people that I really love and admire.
Yeah.
For their talent, but as human beings too,
Totally.
And what an amazing thing to Mike Ness is a perfect example of this incredible human being, kind and has helped others and also written songs that have gotten you through. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
And that's what music is to me, and when you've got that 1-2 punch of the great person and the incredible music. But Mike is one of the most real guys. So I was honored to do that interview
great.
with him.
Yeah, man. He never does stuff like that, so it was really cool to watch.
Yeah, and I love
that's
him.
not really his zone. Like, he doesn't like getting out and doing that stuff.
Yeah, but I love him, man. And he, I just sent him a cool tee. I sent him that T-shirt I have with the VU meters on it.
Oh, yeah.
He liked that.
He talked about it on the show.
Yes.
That's right. Yeah,
so
yeah.
I sent him one, and I called him up. I go, "Did you get the shirt?" And he goes, "Oh, I'm not around." He goes, "Let me." And he called his wife, and she goes, "Yeah, it came because it didn't say it was from me, but I just had it sent to his house. I bought him one.
That's
and
amazing.
sent it to his house because he liked it.
I'm stoked for that tour, Bad Religion. That's gonna be.
It's gonna be a great one.
He'll be out there singing again.
Yeah,
that's scary because that's like his tool. That's his everything.
Man, let me tell you something. And if you can relate, you and I can relate to that. You as a singer and using your voice and me doing radio and television talking, man. Did
you lose your voice ever back then?
Oh, I lost it just a few weeks ago, and I was freaking out. 2 weeks ago, I literally couldn't do one of my shows. It was because I had been going just about out of hell recently.
Yeah.
And
do vocal
Kara
warm-ups?
will tell you. I just had gone. I've been doing a little bit too much, and it caught up with me.
Also, sleep is key.
Sleep is key, and I have some issues with sleep.
Same.
But as I get older, I think a lot of dudes my age do. You get in your 60s.
It's just so important, though, man.
It is the most important.
I know.
It makes a difference on what your defense system is, and immune system is working well.
And especially when you're traveling too, you're not eating right, you're not sleeping right, you're off different time zones.
Yeah.
It's brutal.
This is crazy. The thing I just did with Rome, I literally flew 11 hours, waited 4 hours in the Munich airport. And you've been through this because you're on tour.
You don't sleep on planes good?
Not at all.
I saw the thing you posted about a place you could sleep at the airport. You posted that?
Yeah, that thing, it's a pod. It's amazing.
I know. Did you do it?
Yes.
Wow, it's probably clean as hell over there.
Oh, it was the cleanest thing ever in Munich. It was $17 an hour.
That's worth it.
It was 2 hours because we had a 4-hour layover.
So how long did you really sleep?
I slept an hour and a half there.
Okay,
I needed
good.
it so badly because I don't sleep on planes.
Me either. My eyes are burning. All my friends are sleeping in my band. They're all taking pills. I'm just wide awake watching stupid movies.
Yeah, that's what I end up doing. I'm I doze off and then I start watching something again or listening to music.
It's so draining, dude.
Yeah, it definitely does it. And I went back and forth. Pretty jet lagged, like I am right now. It's like the second day. But it's still great. I just keep on pushing.
But that's with the voice. You got to rest the voice, and you can do warm-ups, like singing warm-ups too.
Yeah, I really need to do that. I'm looking into some, the liquids that are good for your throat. And I take a lot of ginger. I like garlic. I love that stuff.
Also, key is not speaking. Like people say the tea and the honey and all that stuff, but my singing coach like just don't speak.
Yeah.
Also, chewing gum like Dave Grohl.
Yeah.
Keeps it all moist and shit.
Yeah, he does that.
I copy that shit, yeah.
Yeah. Dave does that for his voice, and his daughter, Violet, when she performs now.
Oh, incredible singer, dude.
She's one of the best. I brought her on stage with Mike Garson because I'm such a Bowie fan. Mike played on Aladdin Sane and more Bowie albums. I mean, he was with Bowie more than anybody else. And he asked me if I'd introduce him that night, and we'd gone at the time before that, me and my girlfriend, Kara, and saw Dave perform. And, Dave and I have been friends for a very, very long time. I love Dave.
I remember seeing him in Scream back in the day.
Dude, you remember Scream back in the day?
DC, bro.
Covering Hot Smokin' Sassafras by the Bubble Puppy. They did his cover. I talked to the Stahl brothers about it. I was like, guys,
Scream.
I love Scream.
How about the new Scream record?
It's really great, man.
It's really good, man.
Good piece of her time. Did you like Wool or any of that stuff too?
Yeah, Wool's sick. Yeah.
But
I just saw Scream a couple weeks ago. They played it with Soulside.
Dude, that's amazing. I wish I'd been there. I was probably away, but
so good.
But I loved Scream. I had that. Remember that first album with Piece of Her Time, or was the second one? I loved all
Still
those
Screaming,
records.
all that, dude. The yellow one, too.
Yeah, there was
Banging
records.
the drum.
Those songs are so killer. And Dave's story about how he ended up in the band is amazing. But I remember being driven because you've got Pete Stahl and you got Franz, and Pete has been working for years. He worked for Cody and Cambria for a long time and worked in place.
Yep.
And, Rival Sons and a bunch of other people. And Pete's a sweetheart, man. He's great. Plus, we've got the same haircut, total bald dudes. So we would.
I like your beanie, by the way. He's wearing a beanie that said bald on it.
Yeah.
That was amazing. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, it's amazing. Well, it's, the first hat I got that said bald, my girlfriend Cara found it, and somebody else saw that, so they actually sent me when they made it, which was a pretty nice gift. Because, I'm just like, I'm cool with being bald. Like I said, after the...
you started young being bald, you talked about.
Yeah, like, at that point, I didn't give a shit,
Who cares?
Yeah, so, but it was... It was amazing. But, Scream, man. I remember driving with Pete Stahl and going, dude, you guys covered Hot Smokin' Sassafras, which is this cool band from, like, Texas.
Random.
Yeah. It was, believe it or not, in New York City in Top 40 in America. It was like a number 3 hit.
Wow.
But it was this wild psychedelic song. I go, why'd you guys do that? He goes, our dad turned us on to it. So, like, the Stahl Brothers, I'm like,
that's cool,
that was cool, man. It's on this one live
brothers,
album.
Man.
Yeah. I love those guys.
Yeah, it's great to still play and stuff, too.
Yeah, I think it's fantastic. And they've been nothing but just great dudes always,
What about daily rituals for you? What's your day like? Are you a coffee guy? Like,
yeah, I drink coffee and...
How many coffees a day? Is one?
No, it depends.
Okay.
I got to stay away from the sugar-free Red Bull and shit like that. I know that's not good for me, but I started drinking it with my Power Hour TV show that is on Access TV, and then it's and it's off on YouTube. It's a bunch of stuff, but because I do KLOS New and Approved, I do this show called Flashback. I've been doing it for 12 years. It's syndicated around the country. West of One, which is a classic rock history show. I do this other Countdown Through Live one that's. Through, like that company. I do a lot of stuff, and there's some other new stuff brewing.
So the Red Bulls help?
They do. They definitely
I never tried a Red Bull before. I've been scared.
Can I just tell you, it's garbage. My girlfriend
I heard.
is right. She gives me a lot of trouble. She's right. She's like, that's all chemicals.
I heard it's really bad. I never tried it, though.
Yeah.
I was scared.
I never liked it, really, in the early days. And I actually, I remember the original, like, the extreme, like, sports guys. When we were doing MTV back in the day, like the extreme snowboarders and all those guys, they would get it for free from Europe, and they're like, Matt, we're going to have it shipped to you. So, like, Red Bull would come to my office at MTV because of, like, some of the extreme sports dudes. They were just cool because they were like, Matt, we'll hang out with you because we like your musical taste. Those guys are all pretty cool. And I had some great, times like Tony Hawk and those guys would come to the Summer House, and, Tony's the greatest. And, his musical taste, he loves it. Have you seen his version of In the City that he did with punk rock karaoke?
I saw it. It was great.
Where he's dressed as Paul Weller. And
I saw that, yeah.
Dude, that's one of the great.
I saw him hop on stage with, like, Goldfinger recently. He's jumping on stage here and there, yeah.
Did you see my version of Ace of Spades on the punk rock karaoke?
No.
So I did that with... So I did the song, and it was because I usually do Sonic Reducer with them, but somebody had already pulled it. So I spoke to Greg, because I'm very close to Greg Hetson, Circle Jerks. And
shout out to Greg Hetson,
yeah. Shout out to Circle Jerks, Bad Religion originally. Greg is like one of my really close friends, and I love him because we're born a month apart. So I was in New Jersey, and he was on the West Coast.
Yeah.
You know, and we were like talking about which records we like growing up, and when we found punk, and then you know,
he's a legend.
He's such a great guy. So, he asked me, him and Darren Pfeiffer from Goldfinger and Stan Lee, because I've been seeing the Dickies since like 1980. I've been seeing them live. And so they're like, dude, because I get up and sing with them, they said, why don't you pick a song? And I'd never sang Ace of Spades before, which could be considered punk metal or whatever. It's metal, you know. But
classic.
I never sang it. I loved the song. And so I went in there and did 2 takes of it all the way through. And that was the one you see on Punk Rock Karaoke.
Wow.
So it's me, and I look like...
check it out.
Yeah, check it out. I'm just like... But if you also want to see another side of me singing sometime, just to get a kick out of this, Toby, go online and look me up doing Fairy Tale of New York with an Irish band called the Spring Standards live on the radio in 2009 or 8.
Oh, wow.
Right before Christmas on the morning show on the New York radio station RXP, the one that was on. And because I was challenged to sing the song because I was on the air and I sang a little bit of a song, and my co-host Leslie Freeman, was one of the big people at CMT, goes, "Hey, you love that Pogues Christmas song, don't you?" And I go, "Yeah, it's probably my favorite Christmas song." She goes, "I'm going to get an Irish band to come in here and perform this with you with a female singer." I'm like,
wow.
Tomorrow or the next day, I'm like, okay, if you can do it, sure. And not thinking it was going to happen. She found one in New York City called the Spring Standards. And so
it made it happen.
If you go online, you'll find that version of Fairy Tale of New York that I did. There's one on stage, but the one that's in the studio, dude, I sang directly. Talk about having balls. I sang directly into the microphone at 8 a.m, Shane McGowan's part. And it was just, because it's one of my, it's just such a beautiful. I think it was pretty damn good. The audience loved it, but I want you to watch it.
Yeah.
And anybody listening, check out my version of Fairy Tale of New York, because I sing it with a great fake Irish brogue, but I'm allowed because I'm part Irish. But it was, but I love that song so much.
I'll check that out.
You know what it is about that song? If you're from New York, even, but it was the whole idea as a Christmas song, that it's about finding love and falling in love with the beauty of the city, and then fighting. It's like the 3 parts. It's like a little mini story. I mean, it's a mini movie, and then at the end, the regret in the relationship is It's why I've always loved that.
That's one of my questions.
Song.
Do you have any regrets in your life? It's a nice segue.
Plenty. Yeah. You know what I love? What Dennis Miller said. He goes, "That guy who said he has no regrets in life." He goes, "Show me that fucking guy." No,
it's true.
I got plenty of regrets. I mean, there's certain things if I could change, I would. But at the same time, I'm grateful to be where I am at this moment. I got to say, being sober almost 4 years, it's coming up,
This the longest you've been sober?
Yes.
Amazing.
Yes,
man.
absolutely.
Amazing.
To be honest, on Friday, I'll be 3 years and 10 months. So it's
Congrats,
coming
man.
around. You
look great too, man.
Well, thank you so
look
much,
good,
man. It means a lot to me, Toby, because I wasn't looking good when I looked like the Pillsbury Doughboy from a little bit too much alcohol. I was like, I look at some of the pictures. I'm like, whoa.
Looking back now.
And I'll go, did I think it was a good idea to post that photo?
You're probably the healthiest you've ever been in a long time, man.
Yeah,
It's
absolutely.
incredible when you get older and like that happens.
Yeah, and I'm so grateful for it. I mean, I know that word sounds like I'm using it a lot, but I am.
Nah, dude.
Gratitude and being humble and just sitting back and looking and appreciating what you have, and instead of like being, instead of like getting obsessed with the things that you don't have.
You've been nonstop, even like to stop and like take it all in and appreciate it. You've been going nonstop.
Yeah, and I'm finally starting to really look back on my life and think about some of the incredible things that happened and really appreciate
insane, bro. It's a fucking movie.
Yeah,
You've done so much.
Yeah, and again, I'm so grateful, and it's been, like I said, there's an arc that goes up and down many times.
Yeah,
but I'm here, and you know what
but
I
when
mean.
people speak about you, it's all love and respect. Well, nothing bad to say about you.
And I'm very grateful for that. And I gotta say, sometimes it means so much to me. People's care and love and I tell people, they're like, do you ever get tired of hearing that you really made a big difference in my musical life? They say that to me, right? And I go, I never do get tired of hearing that. You know why? Because I'll tell you what happened with Paul McCartney. I was in the studio, and I was telling him at NPR, it was funny because I was doing this special for his album New. And I talked to him the first time. He told him how I turned my drive with Jessica, my oldest daughter, to the Beatles. And I knew he'd heard it a million times, but he was still really kind about it. So I go like this. I go, Paul, last time we were together, I was telling you about my oldest daughter. Now my youngest one. Now I got her into Beatles, and the guy who was engineering for us that day, it wasn't an NPR broadcast, but we were using their studios.
Yeah.
And he goes, "Do you ever get tired of hearing that?" And Paul McCartney looks at him and goes, "No, I never get tired of hearing that."
Yeah.
Which was really cool.
Yeah.
And that's for me, when people tell me that I've turned them on to a band or influenced their musical taste, I am so grateful that it never, ever gets old for me. It's the most important thing.
Yeah.
You know? And I just love that I'm still here going, man. You know?
Yeah, me too. It's cool. Your daughters are into like music and stuff and their own thing. And
Yeah. Yeah, I love that about him. And I love that my one daughter's straight edge, too. I mean, the other one's
so
fine. She's not like
cool, man.
the other one is, she everybody has their own path, right?
How'd you get this rated? Just do hardcore, right? Same as me. Just do music.
I think with her, I won't lie. I think there's a combination of the fact that having seen her, like her pops get sober, she was just like, I don't ever think I want to go through that. Like,
yeah.
I just, I'm not interested in drinking. I'm interested. So she's a power lifter, and she also,
power lifter, that's sick.
Yeah, I mean, both my kids are very talented. I mean, in that way, and like
That's so cool.
But I mean, like anybody else in life, you need to be reassured sometimes, and you need to support them in a big way, because nothing ever goes the way all of us want it to. It doesn't.
Of course.
And nothing ever, and what gets us through is the support we have of the people that love us.
Yeah.
And so, but I think it's cool that she's straight edge, and she listens to like everything from indie folk rock in 1975 to Knock Loose and all these other new hardcore bands she's turning me on to.
I bet she likes Drain too.
Oh, she does. She's seen a bunch of.
I'm gonna invite you to a show. It's H2O. We're playing with Terror, Drain, End It, Angel
Yeah, you've been
Dust.
doing that tour, right?
It's coming up. It played him June 14th.
Oh, that's going to be
you guys
great.
want to come out?
Oh, yeah, I got to be there.
I'm sure she knows us. We're like the oldest band on the bill. I'm just so happy to be there and be on that band.
Isn't it great, though?
It's so cool, man. The love is just like,
there's so
I'm
much
honored.
love and respect for H2O, man, and what you guys have done. And,
Thank you, man.
and your brother
30
Todd,
years, man.
Dude, I love what you've done. And, and your brother Todd, like a family. It's a family, right?
Todd's in the Offspring now.
Yeah, isn't that great?
It's crazy.
Dude.
Him and Julie Lewis are back.
Yeah, I love that. And I heard the show was
It
phenomenal.
was great, man. It was beautiful. My son jumped up, played a drum solo on it.
Oh, he did?
Yeah, dude. It was really.
That is
it was
so
really
cool.
awesome, man.
I love that, man. I'm really
Yeah.
happy to hear that.
She's a great front. She's incredible.
Yeah,
on stage.
and everybody that I really loved a lot of Licks records.
Yeah.
But everybody who saw that show said that it was incredible. Everybody. I mean, I'm not
The recent one last week, right?
Yes,
Telegram,
the one
yeah.
last week at Telegram. I'm hearing back from
Dude,
everybody
she kills
that
it.
she
dude.
crushed it.
I love her as a human. She's so punk rock. Like her ethics, just like you, comes from the same world. It's like we're all connected, dude.
Yeah, we are, and that's the thing. And it's about being open minded. It's so much fun.
Are you on social media that much?
Yeah, I am. I'm on.
You check messages, talk to people.
Yeah,
Stella, shut the fuck up before I cancel you.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm at Matthew Pinfield on Instagram, and also at Matthew Pinfield. Although it may say Matt Pinfield now, but if you search at Matthew Pinfield on Facebook, and then on X, at Matt Pinfield, and but I do I do eventually get because of my crazy schedule, but I get back to people and talk to them.
So you get a lot of DMs, people hitting you up. And
Yeah, and it's nice. It's good to hear from people, and I try to answer as many people back as I can, and because sometimes it gets crazy, and you're like, man, I don't have time to sit down because I'm just moving. But
you've been
but I do get
nonstop your
back.
whole life, man. It seems.
Yeah, well, you know what? Because I would never really want them to stop moving. You know what I mean? I think that's something that's kind of inside you that I like to keep busy. Like like I said in the beginning of this podcast, and I know it's the first grade report card. Matt is a good student, but he gets bored very easily and needs something to help keep him busy. So we try to give him extra assignments. But I dreamed of being around music all my life.
And you made it your life, dude. It's crazy. Over 40 years in this.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like
it's
beautiful, man.
It's a beautiful thing. It's something that I don't take for granted at all.
Yeah.
And I don't know what to. One thing people ask me, they go, "What do you think's coming up?" And I'm like, "Well, I got to be honest with you. The only thing I know is that I don't know." And I don't know anything. It sounds like Operation Ivy knowledge.
I don't know.
Yeah, it sounds like knowledge.
I don't know nothing.
It's like knowledge, right? But
it's true.
Yeah, but it's the truth. I mean, because that's really how I look at everything. I don't know what tomorrow will bring. I don't know what an hour from now will bring. And
you're in a good place, man. You look great. Get your lady, you're like healthy.
Yeah. Kara's been amazing, and I'm so grateful for just being able to like reconnect with friends like you.
Yeah,
Think about
man,
it,
awesome,
and then be there for
dude.
Mike. Like when we talk about the things that are so important.
Yeah,
it's the most beautiful thing in the world, and that's the gift of me getting my act together and getting sober and
Mm-hmm.
for a consistent amount of time and really changing my life. Like something clicked and I just have to take it one day at a time.
I bet your family's psyched, proud of you.
Oh
all
my
that,
God.
man.
You know, my mom's 91 and she's so proud to get to see that after all these
Wow,
years.
man.
Little Irish woman from
Beautiful,
Jersey.
dude.
And she's like, yeah. And she's she's still driving. You wouldn't believe how sharp she is. So
Wow,
with one eye,
91, damn.
she's blind in one eye, deaf in one ear, and she can drive and has never gotten a ticket and never been in an accident.
That's
God forbid,
incredible, man.
But yeah, I think my entire family is, and all my friends are happy to see the changes that I've made in my life when it comes to that. And
Yeah.
but because music's the most important thing anyway. Like I mean, it was, for me, I never really connected the music itself with getting fucked up. Like I never. And some people have that problem, and I understand why they can't listen to certain music for a
Yeah.
while. Certainly, a breakup will do that to you,
Totally.
or somebody that burns you, or something that reminds you of something.
Yeah.
And I understand that because it's certainly it'll be a trigger of some sort.
Yeah.
But luckily for me, I oddly enough don't really associate music, punk, rock and roll, soul, whatever, with getting fucked up. Even though
What about getting sober? What is some music that inspired you to get sober that you're listening to?
like
during that?
Frank Turner. I mean, it's like, you know what I
Ooh,
mean?
yeah, Frank
Like,
Turner's amazing.
yeah, I remember, like I was listening to a lot of
dude.
different stuff, but Frank Turner was because I remember listening to him a lot when I
cool.
first got sober.
Yeah.
And so it was. There's a lot of different things, but I mean, I look for the lyrics in music
yeah,
to
man.
very much guide me through the way that I'm feeling.
Same.
I
Big
I
lyrics
like
person.
you love melody.
Love melody.
Melody is so important to me in a song. Like that's why it's great if it's in a punk song that's like.
And lyrics
You're
too,
not gonna-
though. Yeah, it's a big
But
part.
lyrics
yeah.
are so important to me too. Like something that speaks for the way that you're feeling,
Yeah.
or have felt,
yeah.
or you can relate to. Is still just one of the things about music that is a gift that keeps on giving for me. And I need that. I thrive on
Yeah.
it.
Is it hard for you to have like a top 5?
Yes, I mean it is. Like it's so funny. People ask me like, even my book. They made me put like a top 50 albums for each decade, which is impossible.
What?
And I already
That's a
changed my name. I mean, not my name, my mind. I was going to change my name on my book. I was, like I looked at the Tom Petty album. I said, but you're going to get it because I saw him for the first time then. But it's really the first album that was the life-changing one from him. And there's a different Birds album in the 60s or something. But obviously, London Calling, it never changes.
Yeah.
Quadrophenia by The Who never changes.
Still listen to those records that bring you back. all that
Yeah, and sometimes I can. Sometimes it's like, well, London Calling, just for me,
Incredible.
it just reminds me of just what punk could become. At that period of time. It's still
Yeah.
every element, and I love everything from the first Ramones album to, I like records, like, obviously, Buzzcocks. There's so many different things, but I love the fact that they pushed themselves on that record, I felt like with London Calling. But they were already taking chances on the first Clash record.
Then Sandinista, they really took some chances.
Yeah, and sometimes could have been a little less. It could have been a 2-record set, but I
Yeah.
still love a lot of it.
Yeah.
I love a lot of it.
Just
And-
like Life Won't Wait, kind of similarities to
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
Which I love that record so
I love
much,
that record,
dude.
too,
I love
yeah.
all Rancid records.
Rancid are one of my favorite
Tops.
bands.
Me too, dude.
I love those guys. I just think talk about songwriting.
Incredible,
I think
dude.
Now Comes the Wolves is just one of the greatest
Perfect.
albums. Period.
Front to back.
Punk or otherwise. I mean, they're
Otherwise.
from Maxwell Murder all the way through that record. You love an album that takes you on a journey, and that's what an Out Comes the
Journey
Wolves
to the
does
End.
for me.
Yeah, it does.
Journey
man.
to the End of the East Bay is the greatest. Do you know what I did? This is funny. When I moved to San Francisco, I'll just tell you
You
this.
went there?
This is going. Yeah, I was on K-Fog for a little while. So I moved to San Francisco, and I had to play songs. They interviewed me on the actual news station,
Wow.
and I gave them a montage of songs that reminded me of the Bay, and I put Journey to the End of the East Bay in
Awesome,
there, which
dude.
was really cool. I had to put Rancid on there.
You were a big part of
Green
that,
Day,
man.
too.
Yeah, with them on MTV and all that stuff,
Yeah,
too. You were pushing
yeah,
it, man.
and Green Day, and I put everybody, like on that, and then Jefferson Airplane, because I was living in Paul Kantner from Jefferson Airplane's apartment. I moved into his apartment, and this is the greatest story of all. This is so funny.
Let's get it.
So I'm in one apartment with my ex-girlfriend, and she brings the dog, and I wanted to let my landlord know that, hey, man, I'm very honest and transparent. I want you to know we got a dog. you want the neighbors to tell you so you get pissed. And he goes, Matt, don't worry about it. How big's the dog? I go, it's a Maltese. He goes, all right, maybe you just need a bigger place. I go, what do you have in mind? He goes, Paul Kanner's place. And I just go, I'll take it. I said, I'll take the apartment in North Beach, the Italian section of San Fran, because it was Paul Kanner's apartment. I know that sounds it's really random, but I did. And I had looked at it quickly. And then when I finally went back in there, I didn't check the water pressure or any of that shit. I went into that apartment and I turned on the shower, and the shower head starts shooting psychedelic lasers out. It is a water-powered laser shooting psychedelic shower head. I'd never seen anything like it. And I was like, this is so Jefferson Airplane in San Francisco. And I laughed so hard. And then I asked my landlord, Giovanni, this guy, I said, hey, Giovanni, do you mind if I take the this shower head when I leave? He goes, they probably won't want it anyway, so I have it. It's not going in our house.
You still have it?
Yeah, but it's not. We got better shower heads in our place. But I kept it because it's so cool. I mean, the guy who started Jefferson Airplane, his
you collect a lot of things? You have a lot of things?
Yes and no. Like, I do have a lot of things, but I think I'm
not a hoarder or nothing like that.
Yeah, not anymore.
Storage stuff, probably jersey and stuff. Yeah.
I went through a lot of storage recently and got rid of a lot of stuff. I had to, because it costs money. Like, you know what I mean? So to store it, and like a lot of that stuff. Some of it had been like literally not open since I got displaced on 9/11. So I'd seen it in 23 years.
That's crazy, dude.
So it was like opening a Christmas boxes. Going, oh my God, I forgot I had this record. It was unbelievable.
Or CDs.
Yeah, there were a lot of CDs. Yeah, and tapes. And we found tons of radio shows. That's the thing that's cool.
Yeah, that should come out.
Like I said, Black Flag in 1982 on the radio show. Like everything from Greg Dooley to Afghan Wigs walking in the studio when we both found out Kurt Cobain died. I mean, there's all this stuff. Dude. I have all these shows, radio shows that are pretty, it's amazing. Debuting songs for the first time that have become since then classics.
Bro.
And just like there's a lot of it's cool, like the RSU stuff.
There's got to be a new book soon someday, and then definitely a documentary about you. I'm voting for that. I'm putting it out in the atmosphere, man.
Yeah.
It'd be great, man.
Thank you for that. I appreciate it.
Such a great, insane story, dude.
Yeah, tell me, it's amazing. It's like, I know, I love catching up with you. I know we're doing a podcast, but it was kind of cool just catching up with everything.
Man, yeah. I have so many notes. We haven't even touched stuff. We'll do a part 2 someday. There's almost 3 hours, which I could keep talking all day.
Yeah, this is definitely.
That's incredible.
I lost track of time.
Doesn't matter.
It's because we had so much fun. And
you're so passionate about it, and you love it so much. It's like I'm so happy for your whole life, like you've been through.
Yeah, I'm
grateful.
grateful
Right now, man. It's a great.
Yeah, I'm very grateful, and there's a lot of, like I said, man. There's always good stuff happening, and anything else that comes your way. The one thing that I say to anybody is like, the only thing that we can really do, we can't control what people do around us, but all we can control is how we react to those things.
Yeah, man.
And
100%.
And that's really what it comes down to. And that's the only way to be at peace. And even though sometimes it's really hard to be at peace, and this, that's the one thing that will really help is just realizing sometimes that you don't have control over it, and just it's how you handle it and deal with it.
I learned that in the pandemic. Like, don't stress about things I have no control over.
Yeah,
that's one thing that really taught me the pandemic, man.
Yeah,
like when music wasn't even being mentioned, it wasn't essential. It was the bottom of the totem pole. When am I gonna play a show again? Is music gonna happen?
Yeah,
I was just like, I'm not gonna stress.
Well, I was
about
stressing
it,
for all of. I was feeling it for everyone. It was
totally,
hard.
Yeah.
It was heartbreaking because these are the people that I love and care about, and it's like it's from you guys, the performers, the musicians, down to the merch people, to the people that work at the venues, stage hands.
Man.
Those are our
roadies.
people.
Yeah, man.
Those are our people
behind
that we
scenes.
love. Yeah, so many people.
That was such a surreal time.
It broke my heart with how much people lost and to go through these things with their families.
But now things are thriving. There's so many shows.
Yeah,
every single night.
Yeah, live music's back in a big way. It's the
dude.
greatest thing in the world. And I will.
It's beautiful.
People ask me, they go, "You're always out of shows all the time." I'm like,
same.
Because I'm grateful. I want to be out of shows. That's what I got in this for.
I know, man.
And there's nothing like connecting with live music on that.
Still, I'll do that forever, dude. I don't care how old I am.
Yeah, you'll see me. I'll be that guy I've already been in the wheelchair at shows. If I got hit by a car,
no, it's not gonna happen.
Reeling me in. Let's not do it again.
It's not gonna happen again.
Yeah,
but it warms my heart seeing live bands. Like I saw Madonna last night. I'm gonna go see Crosses tomorrow.
Crosses are great too. Wait till you see them.
I love
Chino and Sean, man. That's great. Yeah, they're
at Palladium.
Yeah. Yeah. But so they're awesome. I love.
But I want
those
you to come
guys.
out and see us in Palladium June 14th.
Yeah. Oh,
Bring
we
your
definitely
daughter
will.
too. That's gonna be a sick one.
Yeah, maybe I'll try and get her to come out then because she's
She
on
knows the
East
bands
West
for
Coast.
sure that's playing these shows.
Yeah, I'm gonna text her, and you know what I mean.
I'm gonna give you the flyer to show her. She's gonna know the bands.
Yeah,
for sure.
she definitely will. She'll love that because she's totally. I'm amazed at her musical taste. Both of them have great taste
awesome,
and are
man.
smart young women. And I'm again, Toby. This was so great.
This
Thank
was
you for
so
having
sick.
me on.
We could do a part 2 someday though, for sure. I could talk to you for hours, dude. Like
Yeah.
it's so. We knew this was gonna happen, dude.
Yeah, it was funny when you said it's gonna be like 2, maybe 4, 3 or 4 hours, and I'm thinking to myself. I didn't like give it a second thought because I just
Yeah.
love catching up with you.
I know,
And
just talking, though.
and back in the day, you and I would talk for a while. We'd be at a show and then a show would end, or we'd be at a corner at a club.
Yeah.
Just start talking about music, and I love that.
I
man.
know. Your eyes are good now too.
Yeah. I got the 2 cataracts. They were really bad. You can ask my girlfriend.
For
will
the
tell you. She
listeners-
thought it was just being a guy. Like where's
You
that
know what-
thing?
you know
She's
what
like,
glasses?
it's right in front of you.
You never wear glasses.
I was wearing reading glasses for a long time. But I got these 2. Yeah.
It wasn't
yeah.
the problem. Okay.
Yeah. I had cataracts. It was so bad and glaucoma.
So what does that mean for the listeners? For
All right, let me explain it to everybody. Like, I thought it was, I thought it was age. Like it obviously is age. I mean, that's part of it.
Okay.
And I had a detached retinal wall
Ooh,
right
okay.
before the pandemic that it burst, and like it's the weirdest thing in the world. It doesn't hurt. You just see this weird flailing thing that looks like it's some movie from the 1960s waving inside your eye.
That's
like
horrifying.
seriously, it was the weirdest thing. And
That
I was
tripped me
like,
out.
and I literally was like doing interviews for like iHeart's Alter Ego concert with Blink and Billie Eilish and all these different people.
Bro.
And I would like the eye was like that. And then one day I saw the black spot on it. This is before the pandemic. So I go, my friend goes, you got to go see somebody now. And I go in and they go, you need an operation in 24 hours or you're going to go blind in that eye. So I had that done. They put a nitrous bubble. So fast forward a few years.
Nitrous bubble. Jeez.
Yeah, they put that so it holds the wall back after they laser it.
Shit scares me, man.
Yeah, it's crazy stuff. And then this last time it was, I woke up one day and I was about to go shoot the show for Access TV and Danny Wimber Presents called The Power Hour. And I walked out on my balcony and I literally went, what's going on? I covered my left eye and my right eye. It looked like I was looking through a glass of dirty water. Just like it shadows. And I went, what the fuck happened to me? And I went literally, we made an appointment, and we went, my girlfriend and I, we went and we checked it out and found out that, that my cataract was so dense on the right side that even the eye surgeons could not see if there was damage behind it. That was the eye that the thing popped in the first time. But both eyes had to be replaced. So I had to get new lenses, which is very expensive.
New eye lenses.
Yeah, they had to replace the lenses on my eye and take the other ones
Sounds
out.
so crazy.
It's
man.
crazy stuff, man, and it's nuts because it ain't cheap, and it's like
I'm
you
sure.
know, and I don't make a lot of money, so it's like it's one of those
They
things.
put you to sleep, obviously.
No, this one is Twilight. So the first one they put.
So
me
you
to
see
sleep.
this stuff coming into your eye?
Let me tell you
I'd
something.
freak
It's
out.
the wildest thing in the world. They're actually telling you to move a certain way with your eye
Oh
while they
my
have this thing in
God,
it.
dude.
I was like conscious for both. One of them, you're a little more out of it because they're doing anesthesia and they're kind of like knocking you out a little bit
I might faint, bro.
until they need you to move again. It's the wildest
What?
thing. And then like, oh my God, when I got out of it's
Oh my
crazy
God,
stuff.
dude.
And it was crazier for me. People say that they've had this done, and that it's not that big a deal. But because I had glaucoma, which is like it's degenerative, it could really make you go blind.
That's scary.
I had to have all that done on each eye at the one time. So I took one before Thanksgiving operation, and then one after I got done shooting the second season of the TV show, The Power Hour. As soon as I was done with the first show, I like that. 2 days later, I'm like getting the next eye done.
And how's that healing process?
It's you gotta put you gotta put a lot of drops in and do that stuff. And it's weird because at first it freaked me out, man. I'm like, what's wrong? When is it gonna be better?
Yeah, it
And
takes a while.
it's not perfect, but it's a lot better than it was. Like I couldn't see anything. I never realized how bad it was,
Now
and
you-
it's
now
gonna
you get it.
change as I get older. I still have
Of
reading
course.
glasses,
Yeah.
and I haven't gotten rid of those, but it improved. Yeah, I haven't used them in a while. I'm amazed. I can't
Wow.
believe,
It was way better.
it's so much better. So if you're thinking of having it done, And you can get like an insurance company to help you with it or pay part of it because
Does insurance cover that?
No, insurance. What's the
rough,
deal with
dude.
health insurance that that they don't think that people need teeth or their eyes? Like, what's going on?
The dental is
Yeah.
The dental's so bad.
It's
man.
absurd, and it's like
Shut up,
unbelievable. The
Stella.
eyes are pretty bad
Stella
too.
loves
with some
you.
of them.
I know the eye stuff, all that stuff.
Yeah, that's for a whole other episode.
Yeah.
Right? A song. Ramones had a song about insurance.
Stella, they did.
High risk insurance.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Like,
Stella.
yeah.
So,
Yeah.
I'm
Anyway,
I'm editing the podcast. Yo,
so-
Matt, thank you for being here.
I loved
has
having
been
it with you, Toby. This was fun. We got a lot of
so
great shit
fun.
done.
The
Man,
listeners
it was
gonna
so.
love this.
I hope they love it and they don't get bored.
Nah,
You know?
dude, they're gonna love this.
Yeah, there's.
I love hanging out and chopping it up with you. We know each other for a long time. And
I
like,
love hanging with you, Toby, because your musical passion is the thing. Besides being a great artist with H2O and all the stuff you've done and the artists you've worked with, and I've always loved the band from the very first album.
I
back
remember,
in
man.
96.
I know,
Yeah,
man.
I remember I reached out to you about it.
I
Like
know,
that was,
man.
and then, but I just love that your love of music goes so deep and wide,
Yeah.
and
Thank you, man.
and your passion for life, and I think it's great.
Thank you, brother.
Thank you so much for having me on.
Let's hang out soon in real life too, off the podcast.
Absolutely. Yeah, we'll get you, me, Moon, and Karen. We'll all go
That'd be
out.
awesome, dude. You gonna come back for the plunge in the sauna?
Yeah. Oh, I'm in.
Okay,
I'll do
she's
it.
down. Okay. Thanks, everybody. Thanks for listening. Bye.
Uh,
Yeah, we're back in the podcast. This always happens as soon as you're done. You start talking about things we should have talked about, but we're going to back here to talk about Matt's passion for all things Ian MacKaye.
Yeah, man. I mean, Minor Threat were such an important band for me. Even though I wasn't straight edge, there was this unbelievable respect I had, and I loved the songs. You know what I mean? So, Out of Step was one of my favorite records of the early 80s. I
That's
love
my top
that
one
record.
too. Yeah.
It's in there, man. Look Back and Laugh. I used to play that on the radio all the time. I mean, I love that. I mean, there's so many songs on that EP.
What about Embrace?
Oh, I love Embrace, man. I mean,
Egg Hunt,
yeah.
Palehead.
Palehead. Oh, my God.
Ministry.
Don't stand in line.
I will refuse.
Yes, that stuff is great.
Dude,
yeah.
so good.
Dude, I love it. I love Fugazi. I still do.
my
You know, like
God.
Ian's what I also love
Have
about
you had
Ian.
interactions with Ian throughout your lives?
No, this is crazy. It's really interesting, that we haven't really hung, but I think he must know that I've been a huge fan.
For sure.
Because I've seen him live, and I've talked to Lyle and the other guys that have been over the years, obviously, and Brian Baker, of course, and told them, excuse me, about all the things that I loved. And I remembered, like I was just telling Kara, my girlfriend, the other day, I'm like, I had a Standell 7-inch. Sometimes good guys don't wear white, and I was like, I thought it was the coolest thing ever when Minor Threat put that out on their final single with Salad Days, and I loved that. And I had that 7-inch, that iconic photo on the cover of that. But I always loved them. I loved what he stood for, and
man.
And what I've been told, which is why I get really excited. And we didn't even mention Black Flag either, who are very important. Or no, we did mention
You
them.
saw them, yeah.
We also mentioned how much I love Damage. But I want to say that Minor Threat are such an important band and set a great example with the whole straight edge thing that they were
Changed my
doing.
life, dude.
With Discord and everything. So many great things came out of that. And I love that I hear that Ian is this really incredible completist too. Like he has all the things from all the shows. Like there's this amazing archive.
I've been there five or six times, seen it all.
I want to go down
You
there
gotta go.
sometime.
I'd love to go there with you, man.
Yeah, we should go. I would
can
love
make it
to go
happen.
meet Ian and hang out with him and
He'll
talk
give
to
you
him.
a tour. You see the original lyrics to Straight Edge on a piece of paper. He has everything archived, every flyer, every show, audio, video, letters. When I was there recently with my wife, she never been there. He pulled out a postcard from 1986 that my brother Todd Morse wrote to him because he had it saved. It was unreal. Dude.
Yeah, I love that about him.
So
I think
cool,
that's one of the incredible, beautiful qualities. And I think the thing about you following in the footsteps of being straight edge, I think it's
Thank you, man.
it's a great thing.
Yeah,
My history obviously it wasn't straight edge, but I so respected it, and all the guys that were, and I had friends that were straight edge even through those periods because, because I respected what they were doing. Where other people, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
I got it because they would talk to me about the philosophies of how they felt about things,
totally,
and the way that people were, and I agreed with a lot of it, believe it or not. But I did have the one thing that the the difference was I was an alcoholic and had a drinking problem, but a lot of
But now you're straight for 4 years now.
yeah, it's a beautiful thing.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like,
it is, and I love that I have a daughter who is, and
That's so
and
cool.
and my other
I know.
daughter, I'm not judging her. I love her. I love them
Yeah, of
both
course.
equally with all my heart. But it's so cool that I have a straight edge daughter. I just think that's
And my son's straight as dude. My son's never tried anything as well. And for his 21st birthday, he got 3 X's tattooed on him. I was like, it was his idea. I went and watched him do it. I was trying to get emotional. Just super proud, man.
Yeah, that's a great thing. You set a great example when you do that. And sometimes, like I said, sometimes your children will learn from examples
Yeah.
many times of parents of things that they don't want to
Go
repeat.
the opposite of you or whatever.
Yeah, they want to keep good qualities, but they don't want to fall into the same pitfalls, which is what you want for your children. You want them to, if you've been through it, you pray for your kids, and you want your kids to be healthy.
100%, man.
But yeah, we gotta hang with you, Mackay.
Yeah.
Because
I'd love to take you there, man. It's so cool.
It'd be amazing.
It's
Yeah.
magical. I always ask my guests if they have any regrets.
I have questions
I
about
personally
like
don't
out of
have any
step.
regrets.
There's
Oh,
a bunch
yeah.
of things
Even when it
about
comes
some
to
of the
my
shows.
tattoos. They just dropped the out of step.
Even my ET on my leg.
7 inches.
It's still a
I'll show it
childhood
to you.
memory.
Oh,
for
dude,
me.
I gotta
I'll
see
let
it.
roll.
Okay.
I've had
Okay, part 2,
tattoos on
part
top
3
of
is coming soon,
tattoos.
everybody.
Yeah.
Okay, we're signing off for real this time.
Yeah, thanks.
Bye.
I started getting tattoos when I was 18. I'm 52 now, and I can't stop. I've had laser treatment before on something on my arm. It's 4 tattoos on top of each other. And that experience at that place was pretty fast. It was pretty cold. It was in and out, swiped the credit card. Don't really tell me much. Didn't give me much details or anything was going to happen. So I never went back. So as of most recently, I'm so lucky enough to have had 2 sessions at Removery Tattoo Removal. My tattoo on my arm that looks like a big black blob is now super light. I've had 2 sessions. I have a long road ahead of me. None of this stuff happens overnight. You cannot take a tattoo up in one sitting. You have to be patient. And it's painful. They ice you up. It's super fast. To me, it felt like a bunch of rubber bands. But what's more painful than that is looking at something on your body that you think you're stuck with for the rest of your life. That sucks. But now for me, I'm really happy I started this journey. I'm slowly going to get this tattoo removed. I never thought in a million years I have any kind of real estate on my arm. I don't even know what I want, but it's exciting. I'm so honored to announce that One Life, One Chance podcast is now with Removery. I have a code. Use TobyH20 and get $100 off your first session. Call 866-934-4570 or go to removery.com. One of the most experienced tattoo removal companies in the world. Over 600,000 removal treatments done. 100 locations. U.S., Canada, and Australia. State-of-the-art peak-away laser technology. Cryotechnology to reduce any discomfort. This is so exciting for me because all I do in these podcasts is talk about tattoos. From day one, if you've been listening to this podcast, we talk about tattoos, talk about getting removed, talk about getting covered up. So this is such a perfect fit for me. Once again, go to removery.com or call 866-934-4570. Use my code TobyH20 and get $100 off. These guys are located everywhere. Try it out.